Afternoon, welcome back to United TV. Two stories to talk about today, which I think are quite big stories. There have been a few, probably over the last couple of days. Baleba, Alex Scott. There's been a few stories on social media. We're starting to see these stories in national newspapers as well in the UK. And we're seeing a lot of people starting to talk and say the same sort of things regarding Carlos Baleba, regarding Alex Scott. There's two stories we're going to go into today. And the question I've got to start with is this going to be the first deal Manchester United do this summer? Like maybe not the most expensive deal, maybe not the best, no, maybe not the best player we're going to sign overall in the window, but is one of these players going to be Manchester United making some sort of move towards improving our team and rebuilding midfield? The first one is going to be just to quickly go, and I will go for everybody's comments in a second. That's live. If you're watching on a replay as well, let us know in the comments what you think regarding these two options potentially as Manchester United's first signing. The first is going to be that there's lots of links with Belieber still. There is an agreement between Manchester United with Belieber that remains valid for this summer. It was something that was towards the end of last summer, so that remains in force. Agreement between Manchester United and Belieber. The situation is obviously that Brighton, they vetoed any sort of transfer. There was no price set by Brighton, apparently. It's vetoed. They didn't want to sell him last summer because it was too late. They didn't want to lose him in January either, but they will be looking to sell him this summer. So that's definitely on the cards as being a definite option. And at the moment, Belieber agreeing terms that it puts Manchester United completely at the front of the queue in that one. This is a bit like Mbeumo and Cunha. So if Manchester United want to get Belieber done, it's about getting the price right. That's going to suit Manchester United and suit Brighton. But there's definitely a deal to be done there. The other one, which has gone a little bit under the radar a bit, I did see this probably about a day and a half ago. We talked about it a little bit. It's been talked about more. It was actually talked about on the United stand earlier today as a secret midfielder, but I think it has been in the media for maybe like 24 to 48 hours. But Manchester United are going to submit an official bid to Alex Scott. Actually, for Alex Scott, maybe this was talked about. Maybe it's like a I can't remember which media source I first saw it in, but I think it has been around a little while. But Alex Scott is a player that Manchester United, maybe it's going to be the first official bid we submit. So Alex Scott could be the first signing as well. The valuation from Bournemouth is about 65 million. That's what they want to go for. Well, that's what they're hoping to achieve. I think that might be ambitious considering that sort of price might get Adam Wharton, who you'd say has been on the radar a bit more and probably would command a slightly higher transfer fee. But Manchester United think maybe 50 gets the deal done. This is going to be a tough negotiation. We know that Bournemouth are a selling club. They will be looking to get some profit on players, but it does mean that Manchester United are going to have to at least make a serious offer. I think 50 million is what Man United might think. So we did talk about this maybe actually earlier in the week that a 50 million pound deal for Alex Scott might be in the pipeline. I think the other one that's not been talked about, apart from maybe by fans, not in the mainstream media, but in fans' perspective, if you're looking at another player that potentially could be a good first signing, it might be looking at Mathis Fernandez. So you're looking at Fernandez at West Ham, because if West Ham get relegated, he would be the cheapest midfielder Manchester United could sign that would be considered like an extremely good acquisition. He'd be about 34 million. So there's three names there. I think Belieber looks like the most likely. Alex Scott has emerged as potentially Manchester United testing the water. I think Alex Scott is there as a deal to be done if Manchester United speak to Brighton and find that Brighton want too much money. So that's why I think with this one, it might be that if you look at Manchester United trying to do a deal with Brighton, I think Alex Scott could be a better option financially. So that's where we're going with that one to start with. So big up to you guys in the comments. I was looking through some articles. So Tyrone, Daz, Gaz in the chat as well. If you're new as well, thank you for getting involved. So why do Premier League teams rate Brighton products so high? Why can't we go for Wharton? We can go for Wharton. I think we can go for Wharton. It's just a case of whether Liverpool are ahead in the queue. So again, I think United are actually looking at some targets and saying, well, there's some targets they don't feel are achievable, and you have to go for some realistic targets to start with. It could be that Manchester United see a Tchouaméni or possibly a Tonali as like one of the premium signings if they don't get Anderson. But again, I think most people are saying that United are going to get three midfielders, so you've got to start somewhere. that Baleba could be signed first, Alex Scott could be signed first, but then we could be going for a certainly more expensive player after that, which would then put this into perspective and maybe this one. I don't think we're going to be some of the targets that are going to cost some of the most expensive targets and maybe the best quality midfielder we could possibly get this summer is probably not going to be our first signing. That's going to require more negotiation. It's going to be more difficult. I think United see this as potentially an easier deal to get done. You can go to Brighton and find out exactly how much money they're going to sell Carlos Baleba for. Make an offer for Alex Scott. They're two similar teams in terms of actually what they're achieving in the transfers at the moment. It could be similar prices for this, and it could be that we could be looking at just maybe almost playing these two teams off against each other to try and get this deal done. Also, welcome into the chat, Stephanie, and lots of legends in here today, and say Yardi as well, and Berber. So get your comments and questions in. This is one where I think there's going to be a lot of speculation over which is the best option. But in terms of rating Brighton's product so high, I would say I think at the moment, I look at Bournemouth and saying Bournemouth are bringing through probably more players than Brighton. If you think Kirkes, Houston, Krupi, Semenyo, we're talking about Alex Scott. I think there's been more players coming through Brighton that have actually then carried on and actually played decent. Where I think some of the players that come through Brighton, you probably have to go back a few years to go for Cucurella and some of the midfielders that come through. But recently, I don't think Brighton's products have been quite the same level. So I think Brighton, they definitely brought some good players through before. But in terms of this, I think you're going to have to have a situation where if I was going to say which player would you prefer to go for? Because that might be something also that United are looking at. Is it going to be a straight race between Brighton and Bournemouth to actually come back with a sensible price? And if Manchester United are submitting an offer for Alex Scott, how much would you be prepared to pay for Alex Scott? That's probably one of the first questions I'd go for. Welcome back, Omar, as well. I recognise this account name as well, so thanks for finding the channel. So Alex Scott is a way better option, but I would still go for Stillett and Tonali. I think Tonali is going to be maybe an option Man United should go for if Anderson definitely goes to Manchester City. And with Anderson going to Manchester City, the transfer situation at the moment is possibly City have a change in manager. It looks like they might be going for Enzo as well as a midfield option. There's lots of different permutations. Like, is Rodri going to stay? Is Rodri going to go? Like, it depends on what happens a lot regarding other transfers. I think United are actually looking at this in terms of three separate transfers. So you have three separate transfers. You're going to get three midfield players in. It doesn't really matter which order you get them in. If you want to get Anderson or Tonali, then you still got to sign two other players. So it's a little bit like if I did a story about, say, João Gomez, I would be absolutely fine with this one. I say Brighton have already said that Baleba will not be sold for 50. So yeah, I don't think Brighton are going to take 50. I don't think that's the case. And I don't think that Alex Scott would go for. I don't think Alex Scott would go for 50 either, but I think it might be. If I had to guess, I would say that based on what I know about the clubs and recent media coverage, I would suggest that Brighton if they want about 75, which is probably what they want. I said yesterday, yeah, United are going to have to pay maybe something similar to a Mbeumo deal. It's going to be maybe like United might be looking at 60 plus add-ons. So maybe they're going to look like something that would in the end add up to like sort of 70, 75, which is a lot of money, but it depends how the deal's structured. It's expensive, but there isn't going to be a real cheap deal here. The cheapest deal I've seen is Fernandez at West Ham, but that involves the team getting relegated. So, Bournemouth and Brighton are not getting relegated, so there's no bargains to be had there. But again, I think it's an indication that their players are very good. Alex Scott, Bournemouth wants 65, so that already puts him £10 million cheaper than what Brighton want. I think he could go for slightly less, possibly. I mean, I don't think Bournemouth are. If they're looking at if Semenyo goes for 65, I don't think Alex Scott can cost as much as Semenyo. You're looking at Semenyo as a more advanced in his career. Semenyo was on the radar like a year ago as well, and we're talking about him. But I think Semenyo also was in unreal form. Like Semenyo at the start of this season. If you're following the Premier League in August, September, and you're looking at the deals, I think as soon as the season started, people were suddenly thinking they wish, like most clubs in the Premier League, were wishing they'd signed Semenyo. He really kicked on. But in terms of Baleba, it went the opposite direction for him, didn't it? I think Alex Scott, though, that how much would you pay for either of these players is probably the question. That I think we get three midfielders, and I think we do sign three midfielders, and I think that United have to look at it to try and get three midfield players for maybe £200 million, that sort of price. And I know people were saying, I saw welcome to I'm Titanium and Bilal, you saying that 50 million would be a good price, and say some reports from Spanish media inside Madrid have made it clear that too many is not for sale. That yeah, as far as Real Madrid are concerned, too many's a Real Madrid player, and they want too many to extend his contract. But if too many doesn't extend his contract, Real Madrid might feel that they need to cash in. So again, I think too many is unlikely to be a Manchester United player unless we hear some media where it says that he wants to. If he wants to leave Real Madrid, and that's a big if. If that happens, then that opens the door, doesn't it? Brighton, they want to sell Baleba. Manchester United want to buy him. Baleba wants to join Manchester United. It it seems at the moment, if Brighton want to sell him, I don't think there's any other club actually interested. So that's the situation. 75 million makes it more of a difficult call. If you push the price down to 60, I think most people were actually on board. We did discuss Belieber recently, and I think most people were looking at this one. I'll say no. Good to see you, Coyote. Good to see you. I say Real Madrid have also had issues with Vinicius Junior on the contract side. There does seem to be a few players at Madrid, for whatever reason, not keen to sign extensions to their contract. So it could be that some of the players are actually thinking that maybe it's a negotiation tactic. I'm not going to sit here and say Real Madrid players are going to all be leaving, but it could be a negotiation tactic that if you're not renewing your contract at Madrid, it does kind of open up to the fact that yeah, if you could suddenly start being your value could suddenly start going down, and that means that maybe Real Madrid actually a bit concerned, and it could make it that maybe they do give you a better contract offer to keep you at the club. So it wouldn't be the first time players have tried to play Manchester United off against other clubs to get a better contract. So I would just steer clear of Man United. So any sort of links with Real Madrid players. And so Andy Mitten, so this feels genuine, not a negotiation tactic. Is this okay? So there's this Rashford situation. Yeah, I'll have to talk about Rashford another time, depending on that one. So if there's an official bid for Scott, we could get him, isn't it? And his price tag is, I think his price tag is 50 if you speak to Manchester United sources. The price tag is closer to 65 if you look at Bournemouth sources. So if you're active in the comments at the moment, given these two players, what would be the top end you pay for these sort of players? If you're looking at this one, you're quite keen on Belieber. I'm taking this one and say if Brighton become too stubborn, if Brighton genuinely want to get too much for Belieber, they might miss out. I think United would prefer to sign Baleba, but I'm sure the bid with Bournemouth and Alex Scott, which, as far as I know, like Lucas was saying this, it's been in national newspapers in the UK. So as far as I can see, it looks like genuinely good sources that Manchester United will submit an official bid, which would make me think actually this could be the first signing of the transfer window if it's accepted, or if they get to some sort of negotiation, if it gets to the stage where if Alex Scott is going to go to Manchester United for I don't know 50 plus some add-ons or 55, then I would think Manchester United can then go to Brighton and go, look, if you want to sell Belieber, this is the price we're going to pay. If you don't accept it, then we're going to go right, Alex Scott, we're going to get Angela Stiller, and then we're going to try and get someone like Tonali or someone like other options as well. So I think potentially, on the face of it, I know there was a bit of negativity, and there was a few people saying that maybe if Anderson's going here and if Wharton's going there, I think people are looking at it and saying that are Manchester United going to be able to take a bit of a harder stance because I think Alex Scott is a good player, and but in terms of Alex Scott as well, he's someone that's also going to improve a lot. someone that's going to develop over time. And I think most people that have been looking at Bournemouth see him as a decent player as well. I say V's saying that Alex Scott is. You're saying he's not worth more than 35 million. Well, hopefully he's better than Tom Cleverley. But the other option that's going to be a bit of a wild card, a bit of a wild card, would be Fernandez at West Ham. But that feels difficult if West Ham stay up. So we want to get an early mid. There are some players that I think if you're trying to get something done before the World Cup, this might be this might be the one to get done. If you're looking at trying to get maybe Tonali as a difficult deal, Anderson as a difficult deal, I think United need to be proactive because I don't think we can waste time on the most difficult transfers to start with. I think if you go for Alex Scott, Baleba, Angela Stiller, that's going to be a really good starting point. If you've got three midfielders in mind, and I think most people we have this conversation regularly. If you've got three midfielders in mind and you want to get three of them, I think what you do is like if number two and number three are easily obtainable to start with, you get those done straight away. Like there's no point in waiting. If you think you're going to buy Belieber and Alex Scott or Angela Stiller, if you're going to pick two of those three players and you want to get Anderson as well, why waste a month getting Anderson and then potentially all that's going to happen is Belieber will probably cost more because Brighton will think actually we've missed out on some of our targets, or Alex Scott might end up costing more because Bournemouth can they'll know that if Manchester United leave it too late in the transfer window, all that's going to happen is prices will push up. I can't think of any situation last summer where prices got cheaper. They just got more expensive as well. So they've also got the eye on Shea Charles. Where's he playing for at the moment? Because there has been like a few stories. Was this a player that Chelsea were linked to as well? Because there was definitely a couple of stories of players I wasn't quite as familiar with. And I was thinking along the same lines that if you look at Angela Stiller, that's going to cost about 50-ish million, and then you look at Manchester United trying to spend, maybe like 60 million on another player. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a difficult one. So playing for Southampton right now, okay, are Chelsea linked to him as well? Then I'd say, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about Anderson too much because it looks like Anderson's going to have a very big offer from Manchester City, like a 5-year contract, 200K a week plus, wasn't it? So there's going to be a big contract on the horizon there. I think that's why United are actually thinking we should go for these and say we should go for Valverde if we can't get Anderson or Stiller, so Anderson or Tonali. I think we've been linked to too many Camavinga, Tonali, like lots of big hitters. I think we were linked to Valverde. It does seem to be that Real Madrid are considering buying a couple of midfielders, but it's going to be pretty tricky as well. I guess like Wilcox would be a good person to have at the club based on like Southampton, but no, I don't think at this point in time, I don't think there's going to be any surprises in the window in terms of. I think any midfielder we're going to buy, I think the midfield player that we buy is going to be one that we've been talking about, say over the last week. That Anderson, Belieber, Stiller, say João Gomez, I think they're the most likely. Wharton, maybe potentially, but I think Anderson, like other players like that, I think it's going to be like too many. I think is unlikely. I think Fernandez as well might be unlikely. I think if it's true that Paris Saint-Germain are monitoring him, I think there's other teams interested in him as well. I think if United go for Belieber, I don't think they're going to go for necessarily another player that's younger than that. So, Valverde has 1 billion. But I think if you look at it, it's a legal requirement to have a release clause. I think most players at Real Madrid have a 1 billion release clause. I think Vinicius Junior has a 1 billion release clause. I think Camavinga has one because you have to put one in there. So they've all got. I think they've all got a billion release clause. I don't know what if too many's got a release clause, but they just put release clauses in there that are unaffordable, don't they? So they want. Do you remember when Jack Grealish had a £100 million release clause, and generally Aston Villa thought no one would actually pay that, and that's what's going to happen. I saw a question about Rashford. No, there's no point talking about Rashford at the moment, but I think Rashford is. I don't see Rashford returning. I'll just say that. I don't think the club want that. But yeah, Genghis, my man. Van der Ven is the left back. So, um, well, I'm not sure I want Van der Ven as a centre back. So as a left back, I don't know. I don't know. It's like people were telling me that Lissandro Martinez should play as a left back. That was a gal, if you know a gal, and I don't really, I don't think so. I think Manchester United need to get a top quality left back. Like you can't just go right. Can he do a job at left back? I mean, Van der Ven and at the moment Spurs. I don't think Spurs players are playing correctly in their correct position at the moment, are they? They're playing quite badly. So I'll be. Like, I'm not going to say that you write off players in certain clubs, but I'm not. I've not been impressed with Van der Ven. I mean, maybe playing alongside Romero is not helping because that guy has been a bit of a liability. I'm just saying. I know. Yeah, you made this point yesterday, saying that you thought Baleba is terrible. Um, I think Manchester United disagree though. I think United look at Baleba and despite the season's issues, I think Manchester United see a player that they can develop and a player that can again what they're looking at is if you put Baleba into a Manchester United team, you're going to play alongside Kobe Mainoo, you're going to be uh, behind Bruno Fernandes. I think Manchester United look at Baleba and go, actually, the things that he's good at, they think he can actually improve and develop on those as well. So there's no doubt that from a base level, that if you go back a year, there was definitely good performances. And we're talking about a Brighton team as well that's probably going to be getting European football. It looks like they're the form team. They're like okay, a lot of credit to other players as well, but I think Baleba's not been as good but there's been some reasons for that. So I'm not going to say that. Yeah, if I was going to pick, then I think Alex Scott is an interesting option. I believe is an interesting option. I think Angela Stiller's probably got more positives, but I think behind the scenes that for whatever reason, I think Manchester United have always valued Belieber. If you think about the media situation, I don't think we've ever heard anything about Belieber that isn't positive from a Manchester United perspective. So Uh, Gaz says, yeah, what I say, Gaz, is that historically Manchester United have been really poor at developing younger players. And I think really poor. But when you're looking at, say, the future, I think getting United are clearly working on trying to get better coaches. I think what we're seeing is potentially, like you see, Aiden Heaven actually progressing. I think you can see Dorgu look like he was improving. But I think under the first, maybe under Eric Ten Hag, it was a bad time for academy players. And I agree that if United actually want to be serious, and if we're going to start signing younger and younger players, you need. Yeah, Michael Carrick's done very good work with younger players at Manchester United. That could be a factor. That it's going to be one of the things regarding Manchester United getting back to where it needs to be is coaching. Like if you're going to get Aiden Heaven, Yoro, Baleba, you need to actually improve coaching because these are younger players that do need developing. It's quite easy to buy the finished article and just drop them into the team. But if you're going to be buying players that do need, like say, like a Cristiano Ronaldo a generation ago, you need to have coaching and you need to have a sensible plan to develop these players. And that's one thing that Manchester United just have not had for a long time. And I know it's a bit of hope, isn't it, that you think United are actually going to do this better in the future, but it is tricky. And Gigas is saying you don't become a bad player overnight. So Baleba's still very young. It's still there's still a lot of inexperience, isn't there? And so Alex is also saying that Casemiro had an awful year and a half. Now he's well loved again. And yeah, you know how we had a situation where Casemiro looked bad. We had Kobe Manu not getting into the team, and then you fast forward like just a few months, and they're important people. So um, there's about 4 or 5 games to go in the Premier League. People have kind of already made up their minds about Belieber. People have already made their minds, and positive and negative. And I think people have made up their minds about Alex Scott, but I don't know. How, for me, I wouldn't write them off. It's a little bit like looking at a lot of players that have intermittent, form, and like sometimes they go for a bit of rough patches. I think that if you're looking at Belieber, the age he's at, he's playing every single game, whereas in reality, most players coming through at that age wouldn't be forced to play every single game. If Belieber was a Manchester United player next season, he might not be a starting player. So just think of regarding that one. He might not be a starting player. He might be someone that doesn't actually start loads of games. And again, and you could have this situation. So welcome broken to the chat as well. If we can't get too many, which is unlikely, then Believer fits the profile we need, says Genghis. Okay, if I said like at the start of the stream, which I think is still probably accurate, that if United go for a first midfield signing, and it's probably going to be Belieber or Alex Scott, because there's this long-standing agreement with Belieber. Terms are agreed. It's literally about getting Brighton to be a bit realistic about the price. It feels a little bit like a longer version of the Embuemo deal, doesn't it? It feels like Man United want to get this deal done. Brighton just the timing was bad last time because the transfer window was about to close, and Brighton don't want to do deals in January. They want to keep these. You can see Brighton have improved over the season. They didn't want to do any deals in January. They wanted to carry on the momentum, and they're a well-run club, so they don't want to lose the best players in January. But when it comes to this summer, Brighton are good to sell. It looks like Bournemouth every single summer will sell loads of players. How much would you pay for these two players? If you're going to compare the two, I say there is I don't think we'll be going for her, Jude. So I think Man United scouting at least picks male professional players to join the first team. But how much would you pay? And I've said this, like Unks13 says, we just have to accept Labour is coming. So, um, let's see. Do you know what I was going to say that if I'm going to guess, I just think it's going to be. It feels like inevitable, doesn't it? It feels a little bit like there's an inevitability about it. And go, guys, if you don't believe her, you might have to start finding some positives because it might be happening whether you whether you want it or not. But Unbroken says, I just saw the Belieber news. I wouldn't write him off entirely, but it does entirely depend on prices, wages. Yeah, to be honest, when you look into it and you look at the media, the £100 million price tag didn't actually come from Brighton officially. So when people were sending me information over the last couple of days, the £100 million was a journalist tag and Brighton always said he wasn't for sale. That was Brighton's message. So Brighton always said he wasn't for sale. I don't think they put a price tag on him like the media said, but we did see lots of journalists pushing out stories that Brighton want record signing, right? Brighton want Caicedo money. But from a Brighton point of view, I don't think Brighton actually said any of that. So I think that's journalists spinning it a little bit to try and hype things up. And Brighton are now willing to sell. There was an article yesterday that Brighton have already lined up a couple of players that they can get to replace Baleba. So the piece is already in place for Baleba's replacement to join. And I think United have always been like thinking like that he was the top target under Ruben Amorim, and I think he's always been the target. But what's happened really is instead of instead of becoming the top target still, he's just been like maybe he's the second target now, maybe he's the third, but he's still on the list, isn't he? He's still there as of a Manchester United signing. So I'm just saying that saying that it's going to happen, isn't it? It's this is a kind of weird one because in August when talked about this one, people were absolutely loving it, but I'll just say be positive. Brighton are a good team. They're playing well. They're probably one of the form teams in the Premier League at the moment. And Believer's actually been playing a little bit better recently as well. So it's not a write off. It's just that and how old is he? He's like 21. So he will improve. Just even without good coaching, he will improve because he'll get more experienced. And if United are looking at trying to buy a too many or potentially the other one, then yeah, what I said is like just put some prices in there that you'd be happy. Omar says, I hope we don't sign Baleba. So, again, I can't influence it in any way. I think we might have to accept that Baleba is going to be a Manchester United player. Unless we see something else, I don't think I've ever seen a story that links him seriously to another club. If anybody does see that, though, please, I'm happy to open up the conversation to potentially where Baleba goes. But I think Baleba has only been linked to Manchester United. And I don't think Manchester United at the moment are looking at someone else. So what would be so welcome to the chat, Cons. He says Belieber has the highest ceiling of. I don't know about all. I say that that's a bold statement considering some of the players we're looking at. But you're saying he has the highest ceiling of all the players we're in for. That's the most positive Belieber comment I've seen. I think since last August. I think but based on what we've seen though, if you rewind the clock back to say August 2025 and you looked at Belieber's stats, you go wow, there were some there were some big numbers there. He was done really well. Has the Belieber saga got to Frankie de Jong? No, the difference is Frankie de Jong never came out and said I want to sign for Manchester United. So, and Danny B said that me and Danny B have been agreeing on this for a while. I've said that I think it's a done deal. It's just about being made official, isn't it? It's just about Brighton accepting that they're not going to get an insane price. I don't think Brighton have ever actually set the price. That if anybody's seen something that's official that comes out from the most thing that I've seen recently is that when you look into if you're going to look at what the price of the players should cost, then Alex Scott £65 million is the price that Bournemouth put. Too many, £70 million is the price he's going to cost. Nottingham Forest, it depends if they get relegated. It depends if they get Champions League football. Worst case scenario, over 100. Best case scenario, maybe 70. Fernandez, 34 if they get relegated, 70 if they don't. I don't think we've ever seen a price for Belieber that's actually come from the club. So if you've seen a price that come, I think most people think it's going to be maybe about 70, but I think that might be a bit of a guess regarding this one. So Belieber signing, yeah, I mean, hopefully there's a stringent medical, but what would be the top end that you'd pay for Alex Scott? That Alex Scott wasn't really talked about a few months ago. So what is the top end you'd pay for him? Because I'd be generally interested to see what the valuation is. So Irish Pitter says, I think 50 with maybe some add-ons for Brighton will take because no competition to sign him. He does want United. Then, given that Brighton have a track record of like one, Brighton do get very good transfer fees in the past, but Brighton have also, I think, Brighton have also tried to put high price tags on Evan Ferguson and not achieved that. So, Brighton do have a record of actually making some amazing sales and then actually having a few where they got a bit greedy. I'm saying Alex Scott 50, Belieber 50. You see them as the same sort of value, which is interesting. So I was thinking that I can see why Belieber might cost more because no, he's been a player that's been linked to a bit longer. My guess was going to be that I think Alex Scott is like a negotiation tactic. I wouldn't mind United signing both of them because it's still two players that have got a decent amount of potential. Welcome to the channel if you're new. So thanks for getting involved today. There are a lot of comments. So what I'll try and do is I'll just try and go through comments that kind of fit what I'm talking about at the time. But if you've got a different point you want to make, then please get that involved. I think I was just trying to gauge what people think regarding. I know there's kind of a mix of people that some want Belieber, some want Alex Scott. I'll probably put a poll in the comments or something to try and guess like what the favourite one is at the moment. I think if I did this like last year, I think Belieber would be uh, easily winning. But I think at the moment it's kind of balanced, isn't it? 55 million for Alex Scott says Lukaku. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're looking at this one, Bournemouth want 65 and United think 50, maybe 50 plus add-ons. How much did Kirkes and Dean Houston go for? Because I was thinking that would Kirkes like going to Liverpool be a similar sort of like he was very highly rated at the time. Dean Houston was very highly rated. I can't remember actually how much those two transfer deals were at the time, but I think Semenyo going for 70, so Semenyo 65. I think that's too much. Like if Semenyo costs 65, I don't think Alex Scott is there yet. I think it's going to be a bit cheaper as well. I'd say for the price again, Alex Ferguson that I don't know if that's definitely Brighton's price. So when if they did, if Manchester United spoke to Brighton and Brighton said we want 100 million, I don't think Manchester United would spend that sort of money. And I think that's why they're looking at other options like João Gomez from Wolves and Angela Stiller would be there's definitely good acquisitions if Brighton got a bit too greedy. I mean, I'm always like sat here thinking when I see a story about this player's cost 100 or this one, etc., etc., I just question whether that's actually genuine or not because a lot of the stories, probably three-quarters of the players' stories I see, the first time you see a massive price tag, it doesn't normally happen. The only reason that, well, but the only transfers that did go for that sort of money last season were probably Isak and probably reverts. But these players, I don't think so. I say, would I take Tchouaméni and Baleba for 130? Then so 70, yeah. So I think I would. I think I would regarding this one. But if you're looking at like Tchouaméni would be an elite six, wouldn't he? And then you got Baleba. I think that would be an interesting. That would be an interesting setup, to be honest. If you're looking at the different player profiles, then yeah, I think if everything about too many is to be believed, and Real Madrid want to keep him, and there's no injury issues at all, and he's all good, I think too many and Belieber would be. I think Manchester United fans that you'd have to be, I don't know, pretty hard to please if we got too many Belieber and Angela Stiller or something, or Alex Scott, and we're not satisfied. I think those are three decent players, aren't they? So I think if you're expecting Manchester United to rock up with I know Tonali, too many, and Anderson, you probably got to look at it and go, actually, there is a budget here of maybe about a couple 100 million. I think will be achievable. But I think this is what you're looking at. If Brighton want 100 million, I think United have got loads of options. And if United say right, 60 gets the deal done, I think United are looking for. Do you remember last season? It was the cheapest forward player we bought was Cunha, about 62 million. The most expensive was Sesko, and I can't remember how much it was with add-ons, but I think it might have been just over 70. But my mind, I can't remember exactly. I remember in the end, Mbeumo was 65 plus seven add-ons, and I think they probably all achieved because if you get Champions League football, those were the most difficult ones. I remember clearly when we signed Mbeumo and people were saying this is going to be like 72 million or something like that. And I said, don't worry, we only play the add-ons, the major add-ons, if Manchester United get Champions League football. And if we get Champions League football, we're going to have a lot more money in the club anyway, so it's not a big problem. So I think what they're looking at is that's the sort of money that that's the sort of money that we spend, then these are the sort of players that we get. So if we're going to be looking at say we get João Gomez or we get Angela Stiller and they're going to be maybe 35 to 50 million for those two, I think it means that the third midfielder we sign that we can spend a decent amount, but I don't think we need to. I don't think we necessarily need to spend loads of money unless there's like only one option left. But that's why I think if you're a bit proactive and you choose some players early, I think you can get a good deal there. So you can get that. I think you can get a deal where people would be satisfied. And say by the highest ceiling, Wade reaches if he can continue from last season. Like Chris Riggs, a name I've not heard about for a while. Actually, where was Chris Rigg playing? I'm trying to think. But Chris Rigg was the player that I think it was in the Championship that we spoke about. Compared with Hayden Hackney, there was definitely a stream where there was like a Chris Rigg link. That he's one that Man United liked, monitored. But again, I think that's probably a little bit down the line regarding this one. Big up to people that just tuned in. Please don't forget to subscribe and click the like if you're new, but also get involved in what is probably it is probably quite a positive discussion because it feels like that United are actually going to get something done quite quickly. Something that I'm not the most patient fan, but I'm trying to be a little bit patient considering and what we've had to endure the last couple of years. It feels a bit like the wheels are kind of clicking into gear. And Danny B says 150, 170 should get you three solid midfielders. And I think if you look at, say, what's going to be the most expensive, like, say, if like Tchouaméni's 70 million, and then if Anderson or if like Wharton's 65, then what's the average price? Like that's going to be an average price of about 55 to 60 million. So, and if you're looking at Baleba and Alex Scott, they're roughly that sort of price point, aren't they? So you could be looking at three midfielders that cost about 60 each, possibly. If you can get like one that's a bit cheaper, one's a bit more, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I say Many currently on 275k per week. Yeah, apparently Elliot Anderson, the contract offer from Manchester City is about £200,000 a week. But then if you're a 23-year-old and you're playing for Nottingham Forest, I'm not sure what he's on at the moment. I think it might be okay a week. I think he's actually on quite a good deal at Nottingham Forest, but he would be doubling his money. At the moment, Balieba's on 12,500 at Brighton. So in terms of salary, I have no idea what Manchester United would offer Baleba, but I'm guessing this maybe it would be maybe Kobe Mainoo would be a similar salary where similar age. I think they actually are the same age, and Kobe Mainoo's probably got maybe similar. Like Kobe Mainoo had a good season, the same season that Baleba had a good season, I think. So you're looking back a couple of years. This season, Kobe Mainoo's maybe played like half the games, but since January, he's actually been a feature in the team. So maybe that would be the sort of price. So I think the deal with Baleba overall, with transfer, with salary, I don't think it would be too bad. I think the Tonali one would cost a lot. And I think maybe with a too many situation, like being on 275k, like clearly Real Madrid pay loads of money anyway. That would be the sort of deal where if he came to Manchester United, he would, he would be on a lot, wouldn't he? So yeah, just 13 away from 650, which would be a nice target to hit as well. D Hexian, good to see you in the chat. Says, is anyone concerned with Belieber, given that he's played, say, once in 6 weeks, fallen off a cliff? Then I think a lot of people are concerned. But there is concerns, isn't there? I think there's concerns that Manchester United sometimes. I think players like Mason Mount, people think, right, did we get him at the wrong time? I think with Belieber, though, I think it's very difficult when you look at a player that's that age to kind of like make a judgment call in terms of this. This is where you probably have to trust the scouting a little bit and say that if the things they like about Baleba are unique to him, and they're not like lots of players at the same age haven't put up a season like Baleba, like the levels he hit a year ago, it's not something that other people have achieved. And I think that now if Baleba's now on 80k a week with bonuses rising to 100k, then I think still it would still be it'd be a bit like Cunha. I think Cunha was on quite a good price, sorry, quite a good salary at Wolves, but Wolves accept you. I think form and ability is kind of where I'm going with this one as well. But I think there's a lot of ability with Carlos Baleba. The form hasn't been there recently. There was definitely like an injury early on in the season, which led him to missing a couple of games. Like I think pre-season he was missing games, and I think behind the scenes, I think they're managing his minutes a little bit. I think Baleba's playing a bit within himself because potentially of that an injury he had, and I think that might be a factor. But again, I will speak to a Brighton fan see if I can get some clarification. But no, he's definitely going to be up there in terms of like that. Up there. If he carries on where he was a year ago, I think it's what he can get back to his best forms, and I think that's what United are believing. But in a way, even though the form dropped off a little bit, maybe that's actually going to help us because if Baleba had another season where he'd progressed as well, I think genuinely we would be having to pay a very high salary, sorry, very high transfer fee. So it could be a blessing in disguise. That if Baleba's had a bit of a temporary lapse in form, which I'm hoping that's the case because I think he's going to be a Manchester United player, then hopefully what we're going to be seeing is he can bounce back to his form and maybe it helps us get a little bit of a better deal. That's what I'm thinking. I say the reason Baleba's not selected is more of a punishment by the board. So there's probably three different reasons. One is like he's got a lack of form, and they're thinking that that's the reason why he gets substituted. The other one I'm thinking is like sometimes you get players where if they're coming back from an injury, you manage minutes more, but also has he had his head turned by Manchester United? Is his heart not in it? The only kind of worry is would he have the same issue if he was at Manchester United and Real Madrid came knocking if he improved for us? But I think that's something that you hopefully don't have to address. But it's interesting that Baleba definitely it's probably a divisive transfer. If I'm honest, that I thought I think with Man United fans, it's difficult to guess what people are thinking. But if Baleba got signed, say this got done as the first deal, how would people be thinking regarding this one? Would you be positive about this? Because there was a lot of optimism last year. I'll say let's have a look at this one. Say Ralph Rangnick said you want players that are earning their first or second big contract, still hungry. I'd say, yeah, too many's already there, isn't he? I think Tonali's looking for that big contract as well. I think Dorgu is a hungry player. Like Dorgu is someone that's like I think fighting to like progress through where he is, fighting to get in the first team, get performances. So I think like that's kind of players that you got on the up. I think Anderson's putting in good performances as well. He's definitely fighting. I think Belieber is just he's had a tough season, isn't he? That's why it's tricky. So you'd be like a bit. So you wouldn't be particularly happy then, I guess, with that one. Cake says the question is Beliebers' form this season. Is it good enough for Manchester United? So I think we're as fans, I think we're judging form, rightly so, because we got that to go on. I think we're looking at that one and we're going right. We're judging form and saying that Manchester United looking at Baleba, he's not been in good form. But if you look at the player, I think Manchester United, the scouts, they will be looking at ability and they'll be looking at where's this player going in what like 1 year, 2 years time. If we buy Baleba for 60, are we looking at £100 million player in a couple of seasons? Because I think United looked at Anderson with the same way and said Anderson he's just going to get better and better. And let's be honest. Like say 2 years ago, no one talked about Anderson. 18 months ago, a few people were talking about Anderson, and it's just you can see that people see the player, they see more of him. It's in the spotlight, etc., etc. And I think what we're looking at now is that at the moment, maybe Fernandez is the new up and coming. Actually, this thing you're talking about, Fernandez is like the kind of the not necessarily that he's new, but he's become another story as well. So, welcome Oman to the chat as well. Which player are you talking about regarding saying he's solid? Are you talking about Belieber? Because well, I think whatever player we're signing, well, no, whatever player we're linked to, there's always going to be a range of views. And I've said this that I've always said that Belieber's not necessarily number one on my target. I've got Anderson there, but I think Anderson's not going to happen. And I don't think that United should really waste too much time if that's the case. If Anderson's got that 5-year contract offer from City and he's seriously considering it, and if we look at Wharton wanting to go to Liverpool, which looks like a likely situation as well, I think United have to weigh up like and I think it's a difficult decision, isn't it? Like, does too many want to leave Real Madrid? We don't know. So Manchester United can't just sit here waiting to find out. They have to be a bit more. This is something we've moaned about for years. Like United kind of chasing one target. I think actually what's happening is Manchester United are actually doing what some fans have actually wanted us to do for ages. Like if we go to, I would absolutely love it if the next story I get to talk about in a couple of days is this one. If we can talk about Alex Scott offer on the table from Manchester United, I would be like, okay, right, this is like, things are happening, and it's not something that we normally do, and it's a player that also that I think most people look at and think it's no, there's a good deal to be done there if you can get him for the right price. So I would love that to be the next story I talk about because that would be Manchester United doing exactly what most of us fans have said for and probably going back years, going like, why do we take so long to do transfers, and why do we go for targets that are the most difficult to start with? And then, do you remember last season? How much time do we spend doing Sesko and Mbeumo, and then we almost like run out of time to get Lamens done. So we almost like imagine if we hadn't got Lamens done at the end of the season. I think now you look at it and go, you got to go and get these one of these deals quite quickly. I say Fernandez or Gomez. The thing that I'm not great with Tchouaméni, so but if people say the Real Madrid midfielder, I will know which I will know which one you're talking about. But no, I think Fernandez and Gomez, that those are good players. So definitely, definitely solid options. I think Fernandez is quite young, but he cost West Ham a lot of money. So you're only getting Fernandez from West Ham if they get relegated. if they stay in the Premier League, they're going to want at least 70 for him. So I don't think that's going to be happening at all. Cheers, Bilal. Appreciate that. It was the morning stream was actually quite interesting because there was lots of good arguments for and against different head coaches. I think that if you're watching now and you think Belieber's not bad and not a good signing, so like for Tom, welcome to the chat, Tom. If you think no to Belieber or no to Scott or yes to either of them, put a reason in the chat what it is you don't like about him. Like a lot of people with Belieber have said that the questioning is form. If you want Alex Scott, if you think Manchester United should sign Alex Scott instead, or if they should sign Fernandez, as they Paris Saint-Germain would pay that sort of money. So if you look at that and say, I don't think they're going to sign, I don't think they should sign Baleba. I think they should sign Alex Scott. Or if you think they should sign Baleba and not Alex Scott, what is your reason? Like, I know it's difficult in the comments because there's lots of different reasons for and against. But if you got one big reason why you would comment on that one, I say it's quite difficult with Bournemouth because with Bournemouth, I'll admit, the start of the season, I was pretty much just watching Semenyo with Bournemouth and just watching Semenyo banging some amazing goals. So I know Bournemouth were getting good results, but I did probably look at him most. So I did look at Semenyo the most, and then recently there's like there's other players linked as well. You look at them, but yeah, it is tricky, isn't it? It's difficult because there's so many players. I used to regularly be scouting Cunha and Mbeumo because of them. So I think maybe I'll catch a few. Like Bournemouth have been excellent, haven't they? Winning against Arsenal. So their form and performances have been really, really good. I think that's a little bit why, if you link to a Bournemouth player at the moment, people look at Bournemouth as a well-functioning team and just go, yeah, it's all good. I mean, with Alex Scott, I've not heard a negative, but it's difficult to say. Like, if people say sign Alex Scott, what is it you like about Alex Scott? Do you think he plays alongside Mainu? Do you think he's going to be in place of Mainu? It's I need to do a bit more research, I think, and watch Alex Scott a bit more. I think Baleba and all the other targets we're kind of well aware of what their strengths are. I think with Alex Scott, it's a bit new, isn't it? It feels like in terms of transfers. Paris Saint-Germain don't pay they didn't pay insane amounts of money either, did they? So I was going to say, Danny B said, yeah. Do you get the feeling that with people's favourite transfers, you go like Stiller, Mathis, say Fernandez, Sangare, are your top three? I think that United would probably be looking at maybe going for a bit more Premier League experience with that one as well. Bunchy said, if we can get them both for 100 million, 50 each. Yeah, I guess with this one, actually, if you're looking at the two transfers separate, would you say that would you say that one should cost more than the other? Or do you think, because I think 100, both for 50, I don't think that's going to happen. That seems a bit like, no, it would be great, but I think 50 million pounds for a good Premier League midfielder, that's like 50 million pounds doesn't really get you loads anymore, does it? So I'd be thinking that probably, I think you might be more likely to get Alex Scott for that price, but again, I think Bournemouth want a little bit more. I think you might be looking at maybe, I don't know, 110 to 115, 120 sort of, but maybe some of this could be add-ons, but I don't know if you could be looking at, I think 100 for both of them would be great, but I think if you want to get two midfield players for 100, I think you probably have to go for either Baleba or Alex Scott and then look for possibly Angela Stiller or João Gomez to get you like the get you the £100 million for two players. I think these both might be a little bit over 50, so it may be looking like 115. So I like that Fernandez can guard the ball well. Ball carrying not really a key trait of CDM. No, but that's why Baleba would be. I think Baleba is someone that's going to be playing further forward. Like he's someone that's a great ball progressor, but he would do well at United. So passing and shooting is good. I would pay up to 70 million for Fernandez. So yeah, Fernandez is that, that's probably the valuation. I can't remember exactly how much West Ham paid for him, but didn't West Ham pay about 45 for him? It wasn't cheap. So West Ham were in no. He's only been there a year, I think. I don't think they're going to be selling Fernandez cheap. Um, Miles, thanks for getting getting your comments about why you rate Belieber. And so Baleba will get the ball from opponents, drive through midfield with ease and power. So Alex Scott sits and dictates the game with passing range, and so both will be good deals. So do you think they would be? Do you think they would complement each other in terms of like if Alex Scott is dictating the game, is that going to be something that? Yeah, I think people liked Anderson because Anderson can sit deep, he can protect the back four, he does have a decent range of passing, he is good at winning the ball back. I mean, do you think is Alex Scott going to be as good at winning the ball back as well? But because sometimes you look at it and go, should Manchester United go for someone like a too many that is a six, or would you really go for somebody that's going to be, maybe have like two players that are also maybe two like that are maybe one that's like a 6/8 and go for an eight. So you have got players that are going to be going a bit further forward. I think it's you will have. It's difficult to kind of guess, isn't it? But or say what you'd prefer. But in terms of like driving the ball forward, running at defenders, and then actually picking out passes, I think Baleba could be an exciting player if everything goes well and he does get somewhere near his form. And Funchy says that you think 100 million would be very possible. So, or maybe the story I saw was that Bright. I think Bournemouth. The story I saw was that they wanted 65 million. So maybe unless they've like got the currency in euros instead of pounds, maybe if Bournemouth want 45 million pounds and United could pay it, it could be close. I think 100 million. It could be close, but I think you would be paying more because of the 70 plus 45 is still going to be 115. So I think you would be paying about 115. But then you then could then buy you could buy Angela Stiller, couldn't you? You could get Angela Stiller alongside that and have three people. So as Chris said, anyone is better than Nagata. Yeah. Now, if somebody is not happy with the targets we got, just remember we had Baleba and Toby Collier as the options this season, and for some reason Agate was keeping Manu out of the team. I mean, don't forget if we got Baleba and Alex Scott, we still got Kobe Manu and Bruno Fernandez will be in the team. So it is probably about looking at the at the moment we're talking about a 21-year-old that's levels better than Agate. So it's again he could I think Baleba could have an awful season and still be absolutely better, still better. Um, so I didn't see your previous comment, but someone said you were spitting some facts. But did we actually offer a fee for Belieber last season, or just inquire? So, as far as I can see, regarding the stories that were talked about last season, is Manchester United. They spoke to Brighton. They spoke to Belieber. Belieber agreed terms with Manchester United. Then apparently Manchester United had the idea that they wanted to offer or spend about 60 million or something like that. But Brighton said he's not for sale. So it wasn't that Manchester United were offering less than Brighton wanted. Brighton said he wasn't for sale at any price. And that's why the journalist said that. I think the journalists and even myself, I think when a team says, when a team says that a player's not for sale, the first reaction is going to be that they just want a big price. Every sort of transfer window when teams say, "Oh, this player's not for sale," it just means that you want, they want the best possible price. So, I think that like Embuemo would be like, we want to keep Embuemo at Brentford, etc. The price goes up. So, I think the situation at the time was Brighton said he's not for sale. Everybody thought, okay, Brighton want a high price, but Brighton were like, no, he's actually not for sale. That we don't have the players lined up to replace him. We're not going to sell him there. So yeah. So in terms of this one, I think I don't know if Manchester United offered a fee because there wasn't any pointing offer in a fee because Brighton were not going to sell him at all. And unless Manchester United offered like 150 or something or 110, but Brighton were not going to consider it because they didn't have an option to replace him with. So this is why Manchester United left it too late. That if we'd have gone into Brighton maybe a month earlier, I think Brighton might have had time to actually get a replacement and then pick the price. So I think it's just it's just slow timing, wasn't it? It's a bit of a shame because if United had actually got Belieber last season, like regardless of price, he would have been on a big upgrade on Agate and some serious competition. I think maybe we're talking about Ruben Amorim keeping his job, so it could have been an important signing for us. Could be, but I think this like cake. Honestly, I got sent something last night saying that Brighton hadn't even put the £100 million price tag wasn't nobody from Brighton put a price out there. So we just have to look what the journalist is saying. I'm looking forward to like speaking to Brentford fans as well. Mr. B will be on Sunday. We'll be doing a calling show, and we'll find out what he thinks regarding Manchester United. I say both Scott and Shea Charles can become better than Anderson. What is funny is that Believer, Scott, and Shea are all 22 years of age. That does anybody get concerned? Is it a concern that we've got people that are that sort of age? Cody Mainer's only just turned 21, isn't he? So I know when Cody Mainer's turned 21, and then you're looking at Believer as 22, then do you think the third signing would be a bit older? Like, would we look at the third signing and say, I can't remember how old Joe Gomez is, but so we'll get linked to Anana from Everton soon. To be honest, I know a couple of people that really rate Anana, so they really like this one as well. So age doesn't. No, all I was thinking of is like forget the ability of the player. I was just thinking if you're looking at the age, I was just looking at experience more than anything. I was just thinking that you got Alex Scott, you got Baleba, you've got Kobe Mainu. That's three players 22 years or younger. Really great for longevity. The only question I've got is you go to the Bernabeu, you're going to like some of the big European stadiums. You're playing Paris Saint-Germain. These are big European nights, and it's something that these players have never played or never experienced. So, would it be good to have someone like either too many, or would it be good to have like Tonali or someone that has played in these big European nights, got some experience? That again, I think would be a steep learning curve. Like I'd be excited to see how the team gets on, but I think it would be quite a steep learning curve regarding this one. Which it better? Good to see you. I know I was quoting you earlier saying that about the Brighton price not being put out there and saying, yeah, that's definitely something that people have been discussing. But Alex Scott missed, say, 20 games last season, 12 the season before, zero this season. Do you have any concerns about him? Um, should I do a poll in the comments about the best signing? I'm just trying to think whether should. But now, big up to everybody that's watching today as well. Um, do people share my view that there feels like an inevitability about Belieber? I did say about 20 minutes ago, if you don't like Belieber, you might have to try and find some positives over the next few weeks because Manchester United, we tried to get Belieber last summer. Every month, Fabrizio or somebody else post something saying Manchester United still value Belieber. They still see him as a good player. He's not necessarily the number one target. Like you don't necessarily sign your number one target first in the window. Like sometimes you have to be opportunistic and say there's a deal to be done. Let's get him in. It doesn't mean you're going to. It doesn't mean that Belieber's going to be the most expensive signing on the window, or even when everything's done and we look at the transfer window, he might not be the player we regard as the best signing, but it might be the first one because we've been doing the groundwork for nearly a year, haven't we? So that's why I was thinking if you don't like Belieber, it might be tricky. Um, Funchy said you took your time to check out too many. If you're in the Discord, then please post things. If you see that sort of clips or information or things like that, I would just post it in the Discord. I think I put something there recently about I think it might have been Kobe Mania when he was like 15 playing, but there was something about Fernandez as well. And if you see highlights or things, I think Buwadi's one I'd like to try and find another clip of him and put him in there, but that's a good resource to share. But you looked at Tchouameni's skill set, break up play, defend well, good on set pieces, good at reading the game, and does cover a lot of ground. He seems to be dissatisfied sometimes at Madrid by playing centre back. That's something that possibly he's getting a bit annoyed by. But when I saw that, my reaction was that United do need centre back cover. I think too many should be signed as a defensive midfielder, but he's very good at centre back as well. So it's not the worst case scenario, is it? That if you had too many playing centre back alongside Aiden Heaven or Yoro because if Maguire's injured or not available, and then you've still got in front of him, you've got Baleba plus Alex Scott. I think it's good. I think it's actually quite a good option. Chris said, "I'm not fussed really." Yeah, Agate is. Yeah, Agate will be just watching from the stands if he stays at Manchester United, won't it? So he'll be gone, 100%. And yeah, I'll do that I'll try and do that in a minute. Okay, I'll just go for some of the chat. And welcome, Oscar, to the comment section. You're saying yes. So is that for Alex Scott, for Baleba, or for both of them? Because I think most people are like very much in favour of possibly one deal, but I don't think people are quite so keen on every deal. So let's just so I'm going to put a poll in the chat and just say which would you prefer? So which would you prefer to sign? So let's have a look. So at the moment, we're going to put a poll in the comments and say best signing, best first signing. So just to gauge, because there's so many comments, I can't really keep track of what people's thoughts are. So we've got Belieber. We're probably guessing that Belieber costs slightly more, but we don't know. We don't 100% know how much it's going to be. And then we got Scott as the other one. So if Manchester United pick one of these signings as the first signing of the transfer window 2026, and forget the price, it's probably going to be about 10 million difference. So what is the best first signing? So best first summer, let me put this in. So best first summer signing, Belieber or Scott? Let's start the poll. And just let me know what you think. It's going to be because I think that one of these will be the first signing, unless something comes out significant. Don't put a different one, Cody, because Fernandez is going to be a difficult one if with the interest from Paris Saint-Germain. I think it's going to be tricky. If Paris Saint-Germain want a player, I mean he's French international as well, isn't he? Um, yeah, if Tchouameni's on 275, he'll definitely chew up our money for sure, for sure. So anyway, I'm going to put that poll in the comments, and we will run with that and see what people think. So at the moment, I'm going to be neutral just to not influence people. Not that I'm claiming to have influence, of course, but say Genghis says you can't vote. I want both bringing in. Typical Manchester United fan, want both of them. But if yeah, you can't sign both at the same time. But it's good that you're probably going to be the most satisfied person then, because if you're happy with both of those players, I'm actually happy with both of them as well. So I would say get both of them in. Like, why not do a double deal? Start the summer transfer window and go right. We've got Belieber, we've got Alex Scott, and then for other midfield players looking at trying to sign, it might be it might be that something that if you want to get Tonali, maybe that makes him want to come. I think Anderson might have gone. If you're looking at too many, it probably isn't going to influence them either way. But it would mean that, if United are looking at potentially attacking players, like maybe Diamonde looks at this and goes, actually, this looks pretty good. I want to get involved. So I think it could be moving in the right direction. So yeah, welcome, Grace. I think I've seen you in a few other chats. So thanks for finding the channel, Grace. Appreciate that. I agree 100%. We need three midfielders. And would you be happy with Baleba and Alex Scott as a first round? Because that would mean that then you get to like maybe spend a bit of the transfer window actually looking at other options as well. And for your third midfielder, I think yeah, I think Alex Scott might be. Do you know what I was thinking? I think Alex Scott might be a good first signing because then I think it might push the price of Baleba down. So I'm thinking get both of them, but maybe tactically it might be better to get Alex Scott done because then you can go to you could actually go to Brighton and go, oh, we got one deal done. Like, do you want to sell Belieber for a sensible price, and then we can talk. So I'm thinking that might be a good option. I say too many is on 200,000 base, 50 Champions League bonus. Yeah, I think that is someone said about 275. So yeah, it probably is like bonuses going to be that sort of amount, isn't it? It's going to be a lot of money. If Baleba Scott is our second and third midfielder, yeah, I agree. I agree. If you got three midfielders in your mind of what you want, then I think Alex Scott and Baleba might be the earlier signings, but it might be that you have another signing that you regard as a premium. I don't know what that signing would be, but I think Anderson is going to be quite difficult to do as well. I say Baleba could drag into August as no one else wants him, and he wants United, so you could just leave a low offer on the table until Brighton eventually bite. Yeah, at this point in time, it does seem a bit like. Do you remember when United dealt with the Baleba negotiations, and it felt like Manchester United with Baleba with Manchester United with Embuemo, it felt like because Embuemo wanted to join Manchester United, it felt like we just took a little bit too long. It felt like we took a bit too long to do the deal because we weren't too worried about it. So just saying like Grace in the chat, I understand you like Dallo. Then someone earlier today was posting said we needed to replace the right back. So just watch out for that. I don't think United are going to have time to replace this one as well. Where does Vivell's choice Angela Stiller fit into all of this? Difficult, isn't it? I think Angela Stiller would be if you're looking at Alex Scott as more defensive minded, and you're looking at Baleba, maybe Korean might be more on the defensive minded, possibly. I think if you're looking at the situation, then I think Angela Stiller, he would still come in, wouldn't he? If he came in at 50, you're going to get three midfield players signed for under like the sort of money that we were guessing before, like 170, 180 million. So I think he definitely could fit into this. And again, but that would represent United. We would be doing a predictable window, wouldn't we? We would be quite a predictable window where if we did say for example you get Angela Stiller and you get Carlos Baleba and you get Alex Scott, you're doing exactly what Manchester United did last season. You're getting three players, roughly about 180 million for the three players, and you're looking at getting players with Premier League experience but are young enough to develop and improve, and you're getting one player that's played in a different league that again is at the age where he's going to develop and improve. And there's going to be no pressure for Angela Stiller to have to hit the ground running because there's going to be loads of midfielders at the club. So it's like Benjamin Sesko. I know we don't have other strikers at the club, but we do have good attacking players that can play around. So it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like Angela Stiller. So it doesn't feel like Angela Stiller would be forced to suddenly be a fantastic first team player. He'd have time to evolve at Manchester United. So I think it feels a bit more sensible. Yeah, welcome Kazi to the chat. It says finally we're making some moves. So left back from Newcastle, yeah, he's one where he's pretty highly rated. We'd have to see. Dallo is basically Maldini, Beckham, and Yamal rolled into one. Okay, I think Maldini and I think Maldini is actually probably Maldini is the because Maldini was mainly a centre back, but also played left back. So I don't know. I think that's a stretch. I'll say that. I like the way you support the team, and I like the way you back the players. But you'll definitely have to get Grace. You'll definitely have to get involved in our match reaction streams in the chat because I think sometimes Dali needs somebody on his side, and you might be that person because sometimes Dali doesn't get. I don't think he's got a majority of fan base on his side. I don't. I think he's going to be here next season though. I don't think we're going to be replacing a right back. We've got lots of other things to sort out. Stiller should be top priority, says the Bassis. He could. So from what I like again about all these linked players is that they can both play CDM and centre midfield a job together. And so Alex Scott, Baleba, João Gomez can all play as a six or an eight, and all of them together. Do you think with this? I think this is intentional. Do you remember there was definitely something that was put out maybe about a year ago. I can't remember who put it out, and it was something along the lines of like Manchester United's like some of the reasons why we're signing certain players, and one of them was they've got to be an age at which they can develop and improve. Also, and maybe people saw that as having resale value, etc. But also, we seem to be signing more players that can play more than one position or have had a track record of actually playing more than one position. So, if you're looking at a six or an eight as an example, I could also say Dorgu played a few different positions as well. You could argue that Mbuemo has played different positions over, well, I suppose we've had a couple of different managers, and I think Cunha as well has shown some versatility as well. But that's something that is something United are looking at. Camavinga is also one of those players that can play two positions. He can play CDM or can play centre back, and I think there's also he might be played left back a little bit, but I don't think he's. And you look at that and think, very very good players. What I'd say is, I think versatility is maybe a new way of saying that the player's actually good enough to play multiple positions. Because I don't think when we were talking about Wayne Rooney, we said, oh, it's great that Rooney can play on the left or Rooney can play deep or Wayne Rooney can play as a 10 or as a striker. I think we just saw Wayne Rooney as a good player, and it depends what we need on a certain day. And I think Alex Scott, Baleba, João Gomez are good players, and they're an improvement over Ugarte, who could play defensively, but he's pretty limited on the ball. I mean, I don't know if there's something along something that's happened that's made him regress, but he doesn't seem to be up to the job at the moment. And I think if you look at Xerxes, I'm not really sure if Xerxes would be effective in our team. But no, these are players also. I suppose, like, do you think with Kobe Mainu, has Kobe Mainu got some versatility? Is there potential that Kobe Mainu could play different positions as well? That's something that we talked about a little bit, but again, people say he could play further forward. Maybe it depends. If you're looking at Belieber plus Joe Gomez or Belieber plus Alex Scott, then maybe it's. I think Belieber plus Alex Scott actually does seem like quite a good mix. Like I think if you like Belieber could still win the ball back loads, but his progressive runs are probably what put him on the radar before. I say Kobe's welcome to chat. Kobe says Belieber and Wharton should be the first and second midfield signings, followed up by Gomez or Fernandez as the third signing. And I think with Belieber, Wharton is going to be, if you look at those players you mentioned, they all come under a sensible price bracket, don't they? So if you got Belieber plus Wharton and Gomez, it would actually be quite, not cheap, but I think you could get that for, again, under the sort of £170 million. And if you're looking at Belieber, Wharton and Fernandez, if West Ham get relegated, even cheaper, but potentially that's going to be about 200 possibly. Kazi said you prefer Alex Scott. Then yeah, we've got the vote there at the moment. I can't really see what it's on. Let me just open another window, see if I can check. But at the moment, so at the moment, Belieber's winning 75%. So it seems that that the majority of people actually would prefer Belieber at the moment. So that's actually quite high. I thought it might be a bit closer, but no, it looks like yeah, it's like if Belieber was the first signing, it looks like most people watching today would be a lot more keen. But at the moment, it feels like the transfer window is so open ended that it's not like we're signing one player or the other. It could be both at this point in time, couldn't it? It's like last year. Last year we had a definite decision between, say, like looking at a particular strike, like one striker or Benjamin Sesko, like Ollie Watkins or Benjamin Sesko. But I think on this one, you've just got a lot. Alex Scott, you prefer Wharton than say on Belieber. I don't think we're more concerned about his form. I think instead we're focused on his talent, not his current form. So yeah, I think the scouts when you're looking at players, I think when you're looking at players, then I think we look at players at how they're playing. Like if I watch Brighton, I will look at okay, how well is Belieber playing at Brighton, and if I'm watching a game in Brighton versus Man United, I'm looking at okay, which of the players are actually playing well. But I think when the scouts are looking at him, obviously they're looking for different things. I think they're just looking at what's the potential of this player? What skill set has he got? Where's he going to be in 2 years' time? Where's Manchester United going to be in? Is he going to be someone that we wish we'd have signed? It's a different thing, isn't it? So I think they're looking at what is the ceiling, what's the upside. And Chris says I'd be happy if others were chasing Belieber. I take your point, Chris, but I think the thing that meant that's not going to happen is because it was reported last summer that Belieber wanted to join Manchester United, and they'd actually apparently they'd agreed terms. Like so, Manchester United spoke to Belieber's representatives. They'd agreed terms. I think that just means that other teams aren't getting interested. Though, so I think it's like that when Cunha wanted to join Manchester United, there wasn't really, if players don't say anything, then it's open ended. But I think Manchester United, if there's a player that wants to join City or Liverpool, I think we generally we say keep us interested or say keep us in contact or keep us up to date with what's happening. But I think Beliebers off the table for other clubs because of Manchester United. That's what I think. So if Manchester United had not made any sort of play for Belieber last season, there'd probably be a couple of clubs looking. That's probably the situation. I think it's just genuinely quite difficult to predict at the moment, isn't it? That when you look at some of the other signings, like I think there's other teams interested in Cunha, but if you look at how good Cunha is, I think it's because Cunha said he wanted to join Manchester United that no one was actually getting involved because he was probably one of the best signings, I think, last season. So let's go through a few of the comments and see what people are thinking. So not convinced, but he's upgrade on Nagate. Yeah, can believe a cover at left back or centre back. At this point in time, I think if you get well, we have a centre back. We have a lot of centre backs. We do have a left back. I think at the moment, I think we might need to. He needs to play in midfield because we won't have enough midfield players, will we? And Sebastian said, I believe Baleba could shine. So that he's is he 22 now, and it could be that, yeah, there's still a long way to go, isn't there? Like, there's quite a long way to go in terms of Beliebers development. I think this is probably, this is probably a situation where this is in terms of like football. If you watch football, let's say 20, 30 years ago, you probably just turned on the radio or you looked at a newspaper or you checked teletext and you probably found out Manchester United signed a player. And I remember like just finding out that one day, oh, Manchester United have signed, I know, Paul Ince, or Manchester United have announced they're going to sign. And there wasn't loads and loads of like speculation. I think with this one, there's so much media out there that there's almost like we've already scouted the players, we've already written some of the players off before you've even like. I mean, if Manchester United sign any one of 10 players, I'll be pretty open minded and say let's just see what happens. I think that I didn't know what to expect from Lamans. I just had the point like when Chris says that anyone's better than Agate, I was saying last year anyone's better than Anana and Bindia. So just get one in. Like I didn't really, if it was Lamans or it was Donnarumma or it was Trafford or it was the Italian goalkeeper, I can never remember his name, or was it like a few other goalkeepers. I was like, get one in. Like I don't mind. I don't mind who's in goal as long as it's not Bindia, and that's why I was quite relaxed. I think Lamans has actually surprised a lot of people. He was very data driven in terms of like the scouting to start with, but he's lived up to kind of the figures, isn't he? He's looked really good. Thanks for that comment. I do appreciate that. The streams that probably you most come across are probably going to be solo streams, but there will be. I just saw that and go right. We have to talk about that in a second. No, but there will be like a lot of guest streams as well. Sunday evening is going to be a bit of a bonanza stream. There's going to be a few There's going to be a few guest presenters, but we will be putting the link in the comments people on to have their say. There was quite a lot of people came on last week, but that's going to be like a something we can do regularly on a Sunday evening. Right, Grace, I don't think we can. No, I don't think we can look at that comment anymore on screen and just say good luck to Agate wherever he goes. I don't know where he goes. He's got a good agent. Like Mendes is doing job. Mendes is doing. He's got his work cut out getting Agate to new clubs. So fair play to him. He's doing his job, isn't he? Joaquin would be impressed with that work. So 30 years ago, we were unplugged. I remember printing out an article that said we signed Hines. I remember checking teletext with the reception where I grew up, and it missed half the letters out. So you'd be like, "What is going on?" But it's just you wouldn't get much information. I remember my dad just hearing something on the radio and saying, "Oh, we signed Ince, by the way," and I was like, "Nice." Then like check out some West Ham stuff next time they play. Maybe it's supposed to be, yeah, that's good news. I think Hans, yeah, Hanson's like there because people just think about the kids. You can't remember from a kids comment, but yeah, I think one thing about Alan Hansen as a presenter, he was a proper player. Like he was a very good player. But forget his opinions, etc. But no, he was top quality player. Yeah, no, exactly. The people wouldn't be like say 30 years ago, people wouldn't be sending you highlight reels of a player that you've never heard of, saying, "Look at these stats, look at this," and everybody's a scout now, aren't they? Everybody's like sat here today thinking like Baleba can't make it, or Alex Scott's going to be the better option, or but to be honest, interestingly, in the comment section, then Baleba and Alex Scott, it's kind of close, isn't it? 66% for Baleba. I think Baleba's probably who has the highest ceiling in people's opinions. Like, so I think Baleba's like feels like a more volatile signing. Where I think if Baleba, like kicks on from where he was a year ago, I think potentially he's like pretty exciting player. I think Alex Scott feels like a more reliable, solid signing. Say instant Vintner was a flop at Wolves, but look at him now. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine how much did he cost? If he's a flop at Wolves, how much did he cost PSG? They must have got like a bargain there, wouldn't they? Yeah, you'll never win anything with kids. Yeah, you never win anything with Garnacho. Should have been the quote. You never win anything with Garnacho. Um, so the question is, what does it say? I don't know actually. I don't know what. Maybe some experts will say that. Wizard Better says seeing Believer is a six CDM, Scott more of a 8 to 10 box to box. So let's get the six in first, but the price capped at 60 million. If Alex is available 45, you'd sign him first. That's that's pretty sensible. I think if you can get them both for like just over 100, I think that's pretty good deal. Like, I think that's a pretty good bit of business for United. I know what's funny is that last year people were, I know, crying out that we didn't sign enough midfielders, and now people are actually really scrutinizing every deal. I think everybody's got a different three. I'm trying to be like kind of neutral and unbiased and say, I said my favorite players, but I think the top signings I want, I think, are off the table. I think when you start looking at the other options, I think Alex Scott is actually. It's almost like if you're watching Grand National, Alex Scott has kind of come out from nowhere to be suddenly, he's someone that I don't think people talked about 3 months ago. When we're looking at the January deals that were on the table, we were talking about João Gomez, we're talking about Angela Stiller, and I think we are talking about maybe like Hayden Hackney. Someone mentioned Chris Rigg in the chat earlier, and I was thinking we haven't talked about Chris Rigg for ages, and then it seems like now suddenly like Alex Scott is like up there, and you got Fernandez up there, and the good thing is that there's probably more targets than teams looking for midfielders. So I think we can be relaxed, and it's not a problem. So 35 million, that's not a bad deal, is it? Can you imagine if West Ham got relegated and they managed to get Fernandes for 34 million? They're gradually putting together a top team. Somebody put in the comments, I think it was Grace, said that Scott's a Spurs fan. Well, Spurs might be a championship team, so I mean, I know Spurs are looking for a midfielder. I can't remember. Spurs were linked to a player, actually. I don't know if it's the Southampton player, but Spurs were linked to somebody. But if Spurs are a championship team, you're not getting those players, luckily. So yeah, at the moment, Spurs are tricky. So I like the way you think, Wizard better. I said about I think you might have just joined the stream after I said it because I said if we're going to pick one player to sign first, I think player wise I might edge towards Baleba, but I would go for I would try and go for Alex Scott for exactly that reason. I'd be trying to sign both of them, but I'd say get Alex Scott for 45. Then you can go to Brighton and go, right, how much is Baleba? Because we got Angela Stiller at 50. And I think with Brighton, no one else is actually in for him. So United could go, right, here's a 50 million with maybe some add-ons, etc. But if we get Alex Scott for 45, which I think is going to be actually difficult, but we'll see what what Bournemouth actually value in that. If we can get Alex Scott for 45 to 50, I think we can get Belieber for a sensible price. Bit of leverage, a good idea, a good strategy. Because if you think about it the other way around, if Manchester United end up spending like big on Belieber, then try and get Alex Scott, I think Bournemouth will just go, hang on a minute, Alex Scott is like this level of player compared with Belieber, and we just push the price up. So yeah. And welcome to the chat. Varel says Scott, João Gomez, and give Collier a season. So nothing against Collier, but that would be very economical, wouldn't it? Scott would be like say 45. João Gomez might be 35. What's that? That's less than 100 million. Toby Collier, I don't know where I'd stand with that one. I think Toby Collier has been loaned out now a couple of times. If he's loaned out in January when we actually had no cover, then I don't think Man United actually want to keep Collier. So I don't know. Did anyone else think it was a weird decision to actually loan out Toby Collier in January when we had Agate at the club who I think when we saw in Europe, I think Toby Collier actually looked more competent. So I don't know why I don't know why Toby Collier got loaned out when we kept Agate. It could be injury issues, but I don't think he's going to be. I don't know how he's loaned. He's loaned to Hull, isn't he? And Berber lives in Hull. Like, does Toby Collier actually play still? I don't know. Alex Scott won't be cheap. So Bournemouth don't get rinsed like United. I don't think United actually get rinsed in the very very short term. If we're looking at if we're looking at the last maybe how long is it? So no, we didn't get rinsed. Well, actually, we kind of rinsed Arsenal's academy, didn't we? So the only person that rinsed us recently was Mendes, the super agent, getting Agate to us for too much money. So Toby Collier's quality, but seems injury prone. You give him a season. Yeah, I suppose Toby Collier is 22 years old, but he just hasn't played a lot of football, has he, compared with other players? So I don't. My guess is that he doesn't stay at United, but it would be that he's one of these players that if he went somewhere else and avoided injury, we might have the same conversations as James Garner, where we think, "Oh, what if we'd kept him?" But if you're having a decision now, it's really difficult, isn't it? I don't know what the contract situation is. Part of me thinks just keep him for like, if you're going to keep him, you'd loan him out and then see how he does. But welcome to the channel. Thank you for that. Still better than Guy. We have to stop using the Garte as the benchmark. Okay, but let's be honest. But pushing Lissandro Martinez into midfield was better than Agate, and I think there's probably academy options that would be somewhat favourable as well. So Agate will get sold. I don't know how much money it'll bring in, but we're going to replace Agate 100%. Kone was on loan, wasn't he? Did Kone go on loan to that other club that we got? I think Kone went on loan, but he was unlucky because he got a fractured eye socket near the start of the season. Then he was out for ages, and then based on like the situation at the club, I think possibly because like yeah, it's Lausanne, isn't it? So that's the club that the Glazers they're in your zone. So he got loaned out to Lausanne, and I think that was unfortunately the fractured eye socket near the start of the season stopped him getting any games. And I think if the season had gone differently and he'd avoided injury, then we'd have seen him. But I think Kone could be one that is in the mix in terms of a backup option. But I'm guessing it's going to be quite difficult for some academy midfield players now because if we do actually do this rebuild properly, it's going to be tricky. João Gomez is a better and cheaper option, says Beastie. Welcome to the chat, Beastie. Yeah, no, he is definitely on the cards, isn't he? That I was actually thinking that I was looking for information this morning. There was quite a lot of information on Baleba. I had this Alex Scott story I'd seen a day ago, and I wanted to try and integrate a bit as well. But there was definitely like João Gomez information out there. I don't know whether United would go for three Premier League players. I get the feeling they want that Vivell still wants to push for Angela Stiller, but no, who would you if you're going to go for Joe Gomez? Would he be instead of Baleba, instead of Anderson? No, it is. It's not a bad situation, is it? Because you're looking at multiple options. Kobe says like Stiller, you think he's a bit weak for the Premier League, and say regarding this one, I think Vivell. Every time I see anything about Stiller, I see I see the biggest information I see is that it's a Vavell driven signing. Christopher Vavell would like Stiller. He's the one that's also pushing for Nagelsmann. So there's definitely going to be links to German players that for Christopher Vavell. I think that the best example recently has been we signed Benjamin Sesko. We are linked to Diamonde. These are kind of like the sort of things, and Angela Stiller has been kind of always on the radars a little bit. Welcome, you're welcome, Stephanie. Really appreciate that. Thanks for helping in the comments today. Helps, and hopefully, I'm not sure what I'll do tonight because it's Friday. it's been like a busy week, quite a it's quite nice weather as well. So it might be something tonight, but it would be like quite short by comparison to other streams. But what we can do is we can keep going a little bit longer with this one. I say Gomez and Adams. Exactly. We could end up with like two Fernandezes, couldn't we? We could have like Fernandez plus Fernandez in midfield as well. And to be honest, that he's a very good quality player. So maybe when eventually Bruno moves, we still keep a Fernandez in midfield, keep that link going. But at the moment, is there any option? Like I'm quite positive about the situation, and I said like loads of times over the last week that Baleba, say no, too many, Angela Stiller, like Joe Gomez, Alex Scott, Fernandez, like I don't, and Wharton, etc. I don't see an option where Man United get three of those players and we're actually concerned. I don't think there's any like bad options. I think everybody's got a preference, but I think there's actually quite good options on the table. And if Manchester United are scouting them, I mean, I think one of the things that's the problem at the club, in my view, is not necessarily the scouting, because I think they scout good players. I think it's the people that decide which players we buy. And I think the scouts in the past have recommended, was it Tony Cruz was recommended? And I know we wanted Haaland, but I think that was off the table. And I think there's been good players recommended to Manchester United, and we haven't really taken those recommendations on. Lamans was like a maybe like a watershed moment where actually we went, okay, the goalkeeping scouts, they know what they're doing. They recommended Lamans. They didn't want Onana, but for some reason we went for Onana. And they recommended Lamans. We take that on board. But I mean, when I look at some of the list, I could have scouted Baleba a year ago. Adam Wharton, I could have scouted him, and say looking at Alex Scott. But I think if there's going to be a couple of people like this, then yeah, say is Cruz old enough for us? Then I think United have got this like very set in stone wage. We've got this that difficult thing, haven't we, regarding I think United that we've got an age limit, which means we don't buy certain players over a certain age, which could be a good thing overall. But I think sometimes you might be looking for a bit more experience and cover. So, so signing for Arsenal, I appreciate that one. I think at the moment, if Arsenal don't win the league, then Arsenal might actually struggle. Might actually struggle. I'm guessing. Does he still? How old is Schneider now? No, that's a good one. Say Carrick over Agate from midfield. Uh, I'd say Mark Hughes would have done a better job than Rasmus in hold up play, and I don't know. He must be like 50 or something. Actually, probably older, like 50. But, yeah, given this, shall I close the poll and see what people have voted for with this one? I'm still going to be taking like comments and questions, but at the moment, it's actually getting quite close. I'll leave it for a bit longer. 63% say Belieber, so it's actually the gap's closing. I think it's like pretty good. So it's only 46. No, that can't be Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes is older. I think Michael Carrick is actually able to play. I think Leo Rosenior has got a first touch like Rasmus from what I saw. So yeah, he's definitely not going to be in the mix. And what do I think of the free agent market? So we could get a couple there. Who do you like that's a free agent? Then the only one I've seen is like Senesi, but he might be too old for Ineos's like strategy. That seems to be where they're going with that. I think that United are actually looking at particular sort of age profiles. Midfielder wise, say anyone in Italy. For in terms of like Manchester United looking abroad for midfielders, I think they're looking at. I don't think I've not seen anyone linked from Italy. I have seen very tenuous links with Edison. Actually, Edison's the only player in Italy I've heard mentioned at all. But it's a story that was talked about loads a year ago. But Edison's the only one I've heard. He might be available for about 35 million. Apparently, for whatever reason, Atletico Madrid had agreed a deal, but Atalanta want more money than Atletico Madrid are prepared to pay. So that's the only one I've heard from Italy. The only one I've heard from in Spain is too many. And according to Andy Mitten, that is the only player in Spain United looking at. As far as Germany goes, actually, is it a Gume that's in? Does a Gume play in Spain? So it means that we're not looking at him. It looks like we're only looking at too many in La Liga. And I think when you go to the Bundesliga, we're only looking at Angela Stiller. I don't know if there's any players in the French league United are considering. Lots of people I know like Buwadi, but I don't think United are actually considering a player in the French league. I think beyond that, you just go Premier League. Like all the players were linked to Premier League players pretty much. I think that's that. So it's basically those three players or Premier League players. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises as well. Big up to you, JSN, the cool kid. Not seen you for a while since we changed the channel name. Thanks for getting involved. Is he linked? Like, is Sangari linked? He's playing for Lens at the moment, isn't he, in French? So is he playing? Then I don't know. And saying, yeah, no, basically on this one that I think there's not loads of players linked from other leagues in Europe. It looks like there's maybe like a handful. So you got one in La Liga, maybe one in French league, one in the Bundesliga. So not loads of no, not loads of and people there. Most of them are going to be Premier League players. There's actually an emerging market in South America that United are. We're looking a bit more in South America, but they're not for the first team really. They're going to be definitely like ones that you buy with the idea that they're going to be good in a couple of years' time. Big up to you, DJ. Good to see you in the chat saying just got in after a few pints in your local. So midday drinking is yeah, can be. It's like when you walk out and the fresh air hits you. I remember doing that a few times. It's but good to see you in the chat. So um, but you're tolerated in the West Ham local, yeah. I kind of have like a bit. I don't mind West Ham. I kind of like the way the club plays football a lot of the time. I think they've got some good players there. I'm kind of surprised that they might get relegated, to be honest. You're saying we spend 45 million on Agate, 55 million on Mount. Yeah, that was bad. That if you look at it, that's 100 million pounds spent on midfield, and if anything, it made it worse. I mean, Mason Mount could be a backup at the moment, but now if you think about the overall deal, Mason Mount was actually quite a poor signing, wasn't he? When you consider everything, how many games he's played over multiple years now, and yeah, you need a hit, don't you? Like, who would you, as a beast, like, do you look at the Alex Scott Baleba situation and think, like, you don't have injury issues, you do have like something like that. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? The list looks like it's moving in the right direction. That we don't have to worry too much about. We don't have to worry too much about some of the issues we had with Mason Mount because we're going to get a player that's going to be younger. They're going to be on a lower contract. They're not going to have the injury issues. It's going to be good. If I'm going to guess, I think Agate might go to. I think Italy is my guess. It might be easier there, or maybe Agate won't like it. But I was thinking maybe Turkey might be an option. Apparently, Trabzonspor, someone put an update. Trabzonspor won a penalty shootout. Onana saved three penalties. Apparently, they want to keep him, so that's a good result. I'm hoping that the budget stretches to whatever Onana wants to get paid, and I hope they can afford him. But that's a bit of positivity there. I like the vagueness of this. Agate will end up somewhere in Europe. He won't be a Man United player, but no one really. I don't think anyone's actually that bothered which club he goes to. I don't think Agate is going to be incredibly expensive, but he's got one of the best agents in the world, so he'll go somewhere. It would be quite good if he actually went to Newcastle. There was a link with Newcastle. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be quite funny. Um, so local West Ham fans are quite. I think they should be hopeful. I think they should be. I think Spurs fans I know are already sort of like thinking what they're going to do like in the Championship. So yeah. So I mean, come on, West Ham, you keep get Spurs relegated. So looking at the poll, shall we find out what the result is? So Belieber 63. So if you just tuned in, like please vote. It's going down a little bit. It's quite close, but I don't think Belieber can be beaten in this poll. I think he's going to be people's favourites. So, but a Trabzonspor like for Trabzonspor and Onana, a Trabzonspor in the Champions League. I didn't think that they were. They must be in Europa League, are they? So I'll leave the poll until the very end, maybe. So we'll take another 10 minutes of questions and comments just to get everyone to get the points out. So Brentford wouldn't take Agate. No, they wouldn't. I think Agate is one where that if the price had been like a lot lower, people might have been happy with that one. One of the problems for Onana is if he comes back to Manchester United because he's under contract still, his salary will go up by was it 20% or 25%, and I think he was on about 70K. But it's not crazy salaries, but it's quite high for a goalkeeper, and it could be that maybe Onana's going to be more difficult to offload than. But I think United may as well may as well take a little bit of a hit on the transfer fee to try and get this deal done. That I mean, Anana's never coming back to Man United, is he? He's not going to come back to the Premier League. I think Turkish teams, because of the tax system, it's actually cheaper for them to sign to pay big salaries. Yeah, no, I've kind of like I used to watch a load of talking about different sports. I used to watch a lot of NBA. It's just difficult now because it's on so late at night, and it's kind of difficult doing early morning stuff as well. But any sort of comments on like if we're talking about Fernandez, is there actually if you're looking at the situation regarding what we've just been talking about today, and if you think that the first deal is going to be maybe Belieber, I did say like strategically it would make a lot of sense to go for a cheaper option to start with because that might be easier to do and it might set the tone for like what Manchester United are prepared to pay. If United can get Alex Scott at what's considered a really good price, I think that puts us in a strong negotiating position where we can actually go to Brighton and go, actually, we've got Alex Scott for 45. We've got Angela Stiller and Joe Gomez as options. Like, just don't be too crazy and we can get a deal done. But is there any, like a third option we could look at? Like, is there any sort of third option? Dorgu news, I think Dorgu's back in training, but it's going to be. I don't think he's going to be playing in the next game. I think they're trying to take things quite slow. Delit's back training on grass, so I think they're going to be quite vague with Dorgu. I don't think he'll be involved in the next game, but I don't think they're going to be saying too much about it. Think it's going to be. I think it's going to be that he's going to be. So I'd say Alex Scott is an alternative to who? Alex Scott is essentially going to be possibly Manchester United's first offer they're going to make in the transfer window. So in terms of like the stories, I think this was in like national newspapers in the UK. Samuel Luckhurst was posting this information as well. I think United Stand was saying it's a secret deal sort of thing, but it's like Manchester United are going to be offering about 50 million, something along those lines. And I don't think he's an alternative to other people, but I think it says if Man United are going to get one deal done to start with, maybe Alex Scott would be the easier deal. Maybe Belieber would also be an easier deal, but it could be an alternative to, I suppose. Like who would Alex Scott be an alternative to? I suppose you could probably look at him as an alternative to so other midfielder players we're linked to, but I don't think it's going to be not an alternative to Anderson. I think Anderson, Tonali, too many. I think they're the signings that Man United want to make one of. But I think it might be that it's an alternative to other options we're looking at, maybe like Joe Gomez possibly. So today it's back on grass. I don't know. It's the first positive thing I've heard about the Lich for I don't know 2 months. Like I'd heard no stories about him at all. I was actually getting a bit concerned. So Anderson's a new Phillips. So do you think he's going to get? Do you think he's going to get any? Anderson's going to get game time, isn't he? What's the worst case scenario for Anderson at Manchester City? Because I was thinking Trafford. You got Phillips, you got Trafford, you got Mahrez, and I'm just trying to think of like players off the top of my head that have gone to Manchester City and didn't play loads of games. Jack Grealish wasn't getting loads of games a lot of time. Who's the other one that's been recently? But there's a lot of players in there that you look at and go, yeah, and yeah, no worries, Gaz. Yeah, at the moment I'm just trying to build up things again, so they are going to be more like 2 hours, but it's not sustainable. Like it's not sustainable at the moment. So looking at this one, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Paris Saint-Germain are currently the most credible suitors for Morgan Rogers, says Ben Jacobs. That's still a lot of clubs, isn't it? There's still quite a lot of clubs. Then is there anybody we can send to Morgan? Like, can we send Rashford to Aston Villa and then get Morgan Rogers, or is Rashford going to be too expensive? I mean, he can do a job at Villa. We saw that. But is there a way of actually getting this deal done? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like this one. So is subtime really game time? Who is that for? I think if you're an academy player making like your first appearance for Manchester United, I think that a few minutes is fine. But I think in reality, you have to in reality you have to look at it and say that Agate. I don't think he's going to get that many minutes if he stays. Is he? I think Agate doesn't play if he stays at Manchester United, so that's why he's going to have to go somewhere else. But yeah, Morgan Rogers actually is one of the names that I think is a decent one because he's only 23. He's got a very good end product. It's someone that if Man United are looking to buy an attacking player, if they're looking at someone like Diamonde, he's very much an emerging talent, isn't he? If you're looking at Premier League players, I think Unai is linked to Man United, and Morgan Rogers has talked about. He's quite expensive though, isn't he? He's actually quite expensive. So I think he's valued at about 70 million. But if Man United are looking at the menu and they've got that sort of money, Morgan Rogers would be a decent player for that one. I think he's it depends on how much he costs. That's saying so, but yeah, difference of opinions. You're saying that you don't like Rogers. That yeah, 80 or 90 is too much. Like 80 or 90 is too much. But if you're looking at prices that are going to be more in line with Embuemo, I think you could be talking. That's what you got to look, I think that's what you look at in terms of that one. He's got a good finish. Then I don't watch enough Aston Villa to say whether I think he's as good. I think Cunha I preferred as a football player, but with the finishing, I think Rogers does look good in terms of that one. Then I say Anderson. So he's subpar for City right now, but you have Rasmus and Anthony got sold a while ago. So Anthony got sold in the summer. And Rasmus, it's probably 95% done deal. But I think with apparently, is it the president or the director or somebody at Napoli has come out and said we're definitely going to sign Rasmus Højlund. So as far as I know, Rasmus is a done deal. Sancho's contract runs out, so Sancho's contract is just over in the summer. So nobody wanted Sancho. Apparently, Sancho's going to go back to Dortmund, so he's going to go back to Germany for round three there. So I think all these players should be sorted, Chris. The only one that's not 100% done is Rasmus, but apparently their sporting director or their what do you call it in Napoli? I don't know if it's the director of football, but I think they said we're going to take Rasmus for 44 million euros. So it's probably a bit about I think 36 million pounds for Rasmus, I believe. It's kind of difficult to work out how much Rasmus cost Man United because I don't think the add-ons would have got. Surely the add-ons wouldn't have got triggered because he didn't score many goals. So it's probably going to be like financially not amazing for Man United, but it's not. It's actually not too bad. It's probably better than nothing. So 36 million, put that towards maybe looking at getting another attacking player in. I think you could be looking at, couldn't you, saying that that could be putting towards that one as well. So maybe Rasmus money goes towards a backup striker. So I think if you look at the Wolves situation, there's the younger striker. There's probably Krupi at Bournemouth and Mane at Wolves are the two people we're looking at. So you're looking at those two players about 30 million, actually cheaper than the amount of money we're getting in for Rasmus. So I think Rasmus money will pay for a backup striker if you want to look at it that way. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the way route Man United are going to go, but you can see the figures kind of line up, don't they? You get a player that you think is already more advanced than Rasmus, but he's going to be a backup to Benjamin Sesko. I think it makes sense. Of those agents, yes, Senesi is probably the one that stands out that I've seen. Big up to people locked in and subscribing today. Just hit 650, so thank you for that, guys. Yeah, there's a lot of things, isn't there? It feels like does this feel like a bit like Manchester United did nothing in January, but it feels a bit like there's a lot more going to go on this summer. Like we're going to be trying to do at least like two deals. And say we need a backup striker and a left back. I know. But if I do a stream about if I did a video and I started talking about left backs, people would say, "Rich, you need to focus on midfield," and that's what we're doing now. So I agree. We need a backup left back, 100%. That's why there's kind of, there's a few stories occasionally. This one. So yeah. So your point with Anderson is think think this one. No, no. I'm just saying, DJ. I'm just saying. I think it's. I'm just following. I'm just following the news, and I think that it's the most likely deal. But Anderson. Say Anderson leaving doesn't make him a City first team player. I agree. I agree. If you look at Manchester City, Manchester City would be looking at that the player that plays in their midfield. They'd be looking at someone that's won the Ballon d'Or. So they've got Rodri, who's won a Ballon d'Or. I know people will say about their form not great, but we know Rodri's ceiling is exceptional. And if you're looking at that Silva leaving as well, leaving as well, I know Bernardo Silva leaving Manchester City doesn't it's the same situation as Edison at Manchester City. It doesn't make Trafford first choice. He was for a little bit, but then he got benched. Anderson, I think most people watching would say Anderson would be walking into most Premier League teams, but it doesn't mean that he will walk into Manchester City's team. It is still a gamble, and it's still something that if Anderson goes to Man City and doesn't play, he's only got himself to blame. Do you remember when Delap said, "I want first team football"? And he chose Chelsea. And then Chelsea promptly bought João Pedro. I think it was like a week later or 2 weeks later. They bought João Pedro straight away, and João Pedro has been levels above him this season. So yeah, the thing is that there's certain clubs that will just buy a lot of players. Man United will be buying midfield players, but I think Anderson knows that he would be. That United feel they want to build a team around him, and say, yeah. So I think that's all you can do. If you're going to speak to Anderson, and I think United should try and speak to Anderson and say, you're going to be a first team player at Manchester United. This is our vision. We've got Mainu, we've got you. That this is kind of where we see the midfield. We're going to be buying another couple of players, like maybe Baleba, maybe Alex Scott, but Anderson would be a first team player, and that's the offer you can put. If he wants to be a first team player at Manchester United, there's nothing that could elevate his status in England beyond that. He'd be talked about, and if you want money, you're going to get money from either club, aren't you? You're going to if you're at Manchester United and you're a midfield player, given the way modern football is, you can do any endorsement you want. Like if United's in the Champions League and you're a midfield player for United, you can get paid more at City, but you could do multi-million deals, like, couldn't you? I'm not saying this is the reason, but I'm saying there's a significant offer there, and there's no guarantee that in 4 or 5 years' time or a few years' time that City are going to be exactly where they are. Things can change in football quite quickly. I mean, we had Liverpool on top for like 2 decades. We had Man United on top for a long time. Things can change. But it's good cover, isn't it? If we're talking about Anderson being good cover, that's kind of how City see things, isn't it? So crazy. Have I seen Valentine Barco from Strasbourg? I heard about one left back from Sporting Lisbon this morning. I'll have to be honest and say I don't know too much about that player. But if anyone's got any information they want to share in the Discord or something, then please go for it. But no, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think some of the left backs in the Premier League I've been aware of. I'm trying to think who else was like linked. Though, but if I see a story and read it, I'll let you know. But I haven't seen that. Watch the welcome back, Mr. Lucky Singh. Good to see you in the chat. Hopefully you're good. And say, where do I get my Manchester United news rumors from? So you're doing Brentford stuff, and you've been accused of clicking on clickbait. You do Brentford rumors stuff. People are accusing you of using. I think with this one, uh, I can tell you for a fact that if you look at the picture on screen. Am I getting the information from? These are quotes from Fabrizio Romano. So things that Fabrizio Romano says, are some because I think it's a bit different with Manchester United because the club's quite big, and so what I'd look at is really. I think with the difference I've got is I'm kind of filtering through loads of like different sources, just picking ones that kind of match what I'm going to say. So Fabrizio is like a go-to one, but I think with United, like Andy Mitten is like regularly talking about Manchester United. He's a UK-based journalist. I think the best thing I would say is if there's any journalists that are based around your team, you'd have to go for that. But I think United just have there's a lot of different sources out there. I would say go to like the social media things, Google stories about Brentford, find out which journalists are actually covering Brentford, and maybe go for that. It is actually quite difficult regarding regarding looking for news. But I think with United, there's probably more than most clubs, so it is difficult. But we can chat on Instagram if you want. You can just send a message to me. But yeah, Fabrizio has been relentless. To be honest, I've been ignoring Fabrizio for a lot of the season, but then Fabrizio came back and started just absolutely hammering news recently, and looking at that. But yeah, I think with Brentford, if you get Brentford something locked down, then I think people will come and hopefully share information. I think the good thing about Manchester United community is that there's a lot of people watching today that are Man United fans and will share different views and players and journalist links as well. But I tend to go with like, let's see what Fabrizio, let's see what Ben Jacobs, let's see what Andy Mitten and Luckhurst is saying. Look at the Manchester United aggregator accounts and things, and just I think with Manchester United as well, you've got the Manchester Evening News will summarise loads of articles. There's just a lot. There's almost like too much stuff out there, isn't there? So I keep seeing the same stuff talked like, on and on about it. So that's why with the live streams, the idea is that we're all watching. We all we can all read the media and have a look at things. But this is kind of one situation where I can sit here and summarise, and then everybody else can like get make some points and comments and questions and stuff, and we can kind of share information because quite often I think sometimes it's a bit one underrated source is going to be that if I stream and people post information, then I can actually follow up on it. So people sometimes share things that they've seen elsewhere as well. So that's how the community's sort of growing together. Where I'm finding more information out from you guys, and then in the next stream, I can maybe share some things that you told me today in the next one, and gradually we can kind of build up a bigger picture. I think last season we actually did like pretty well with predictions. So your biggest concern about Anderson is the price. So with Funchu, this one apparently, according to like Ben Jacobs, and he was talking about this one, that the price for Anderson is very much going to depend on what Nottingham Forest do this season, and I think that's why there's an offer from Man City, an offer from Man City to Anderson. But in terms of negotiating with Nottingham Forest, if Nottingham Forest get relegated, there's one price. If Nottingham Forest don't get relegated but don't have European football, there's another price. If Nottingham Forest can qualify, like Nottingham Forest in the Europa League, aren't they? So if they can get Champions League football by winning that, then it's probably 120 million. So I think with like the price is going to be with Anderson, the price is going to be dependent on Forest season, isn't it? So it is difficult to plan. I think that's why Manchester United are actually going. Yeah, we're not going to plan. No, not that. I should phrase that differently. That's why Manchester United are saying we're not going to wait around on Anderson. We are interested, so let's see what happens with Nottingham Forest season. But we could actually be more proactive and go right, Baleba, and go for Scott as a maybe more proactive measure. I was actually thinking that my guess was going to be a week ago. My guess was that Man United might get Angela Stiller as a first signing. So I thought, everything's there, isn't it? Vavell knows the player. Um, the price is not too high. It's a player that's profile fits what we're looking at trying to get as well. So I thought Angela Stiller might be the first one. Now I'm thinking that Alex Scott, if we actually make an official offer, which is what was printed in national newspapers, I believe like yesterday or late last night, then that for me, Man United don't make an offer and then not follow through and try and sign the player. That's a serious move. And if we get Alex Scott as a first signing, I will be I'll be surprised. I don't think anyone actually saw that happening for a month ago. Vlogs would be quality actually. Like that'd be good. I think you definitely got a niche there with this one. Lucky Singh saying you're saying Manchester United don't waste money. I think recently, if you're talking recently, I don't think we have. Recently. In the past we have. Um, Yeah, Anderson seems quiet though. With Anderson, I think I think with Anderson that I read this, and yeah, people will read a lot of things about Anderson. I read that Manchester United actually, I think it might be Man City. I read that clubs were actually not trying to publicise too much interest in Anderson at the moment because Forest are involved in a relegation fight. So I think behind the scenes, Man United are wanting to be kept involved, but I think in reality, I think that Manchester City have put an offer on the table and said, right, here's a contract, 5 years, it's 200K per week, and I think that's the offer on the table. I think there's an offer on the table from Manchester City. They're more progressed than we are. They've been trying to do this for a long time, and yeah, that's the thing. Mr. B is going to be a guest on the channel on Sunday as well. So we'll get a link pinned for Mr. B on the channel so people can find his channel as well because he's a good guy. He needs to get more subscribers as well. And we'll get Mr. B's channel like moving in the right direction because this is the time to do it. We're getting towards the summer, so we'll do that as well. So please subscribe to Mr. B. In fact, it will, some of the news like last year would have been a good time as well because of the news. You could argue that it was a waste of money. Um, yeah, you could argue that, couldn't you? I'm trying to think like over the last year, I think Euro's looking a bit expensive. Like Euro was quite pricey, and so why do you want to spend? Say, yeah, we don't want to spend 120 million on Anderson. No, I don't think Anderson's going to go for 120. Like, I'm not going to say clip this. Anderson's not going to go for 100. Like, no, I don't think Anderson will go for 120. I don't think it will. I don't think he will. I think it's going to be one club's going to decide where he's going to go. I don't think Manchester City spend 120 million pounds on a player that might be a backup. So I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Manchester United are not going to spend 120 million pounds because they can get Baleba plus Alex Scott for less than 120. They can get if you can get too many for 70 million pounds, and you can get like say Tonali for like 20 plus less than that. I don't think Elliot Anderson should cost 120. Like, I don't think any football player at the moment should be costing 120. I think we should be buying like I don't if we may not get three players for that, but I think we can get three players for 150. Okay, so I think we can be looking at we can get three players for 100, 150, 170. Okay, we're not going to get say like three for 100. I don't think unless we get very lucky. You could get you could maybe go for João Gomez, Hayden Hackney, and maybe another player that's going to be fairly cheap for 100. But I think in reality, you're going to spend 150 plus, like probably closer to 170. That's my best estimation, and you can break that up any way you want. But I don't think it fits in with 120 million pound signing anyway at all. But that's something that we're pretty sure on. I think. So not going to be 70. If you have to turn Madrid's head triple digits, the difference is going to be though, like it's on a big salary. It's on about 270, isn't he, at Real Madrid? What if too many doesn't want to sign a contract with Madrid? They'll have to they have to be realistic. If a player starts getting towards if he's going to stay at Real Madrid and then next year enter the last year of his contract, then it's going to get devalued, isn't he? So I think with this one, it depends. If too many had 5 years left on his contract, I think you're talking three figures. But if he's got 2 years left on his contract, and a year later he goes into the last year of his contract, I think Madrid need to be careful. Madrid aren't stupid. Like Madrid aren't going to let him go to the last year of his contract. That's why I think some of the clubs that do well, it's usually 2 years left on a player's contract. You need to. That's why Bruno Fernandes got a contract extension, I think, because when you get to 2 years left on your contract, you've got to make sure you get that player either locked down or sold. Otherwise, you have a situation where Mark Gahey, probably a £65 million player a year before, goes for £20 million. That's a financial disaster, really. Luckily for Crystal Palace, they got the FA Cup, they got some European football. But in terms of a one-off deal, if they could have got a replacement in for Mark Gahey, they could have cashed in. So it is Real Madrid are definitely a team that are mindful that if Camavinga, they don't want to have too many walking with 1 year on his contract and then going for a lot lower price. JJ Gabriel, I don't know actually. I don't know what contract he's on at the moment. I think something happened a year ago. I think it's okay at the moment, but it's probably about the next contract, about when you're signing a professional contract. I think United have to be careful with that one. I think there'll definitely be news out when it's coming because Barcelona is circling and Barcelona want a piece of JJ Gabriel, unfortunately. So that potentially could be bad news on the horizon. I think United need to be making sure. I think there's like sometimes there's like an age limit. So there's a certain age beyond which you know it might be, I'm not sure, but it might be that at a certain age, Barcelona or Madrid could try and nick him, a bit like United trying to nick Barcelona academy players. There's a certain age in which you can get them in, but no, I think it's going to be. I think Barcelona's the team that's been, given JJ Gabriel's family the tour of their facilities. So that's the team to look out for. Unfortunately, so lucky you kind of like come in with like some pretty uh, good suggestions here that people have been talking about. Junior Krupi is one that I don't know how much he's going to cost, but people do like him. And he might be an interesting one. Too many Joe Gomez and Baleba. Say Joe Gomez or Baleba first. I would be thinking that. So I don't think so. I'd be thinking like I've not seen much on Joe Gomez recently, but I think he might be one of the cheapest options we can go for in terms of Premier League signings. So would people take Joe Gomez? I'm kind of like I'm not sure. I think at the moment there's so many good options. It makes me think that maybe Man United should just I don't know. Maybe we should decide very quickly and get one in, shouldn't we? So I think this one is like I have a feeling Manchester United can decide more on players than head coach. So I'm wondering whether we actually sign a player before we get the head coach sorted. But that could be. It sounds stupid, doesn't it? But it could be a situation. Did I see the Rafael Leao news? You have to say what you've seen, and I'll say what I've read. Because I've seen with Rafael Leao, apparently he's got a release clause, which is crazy, like 170, 180. But Rafael Leao apparently is available for about 60. And I would say, like, I watched Rafael Leao a few years ago, and a few years ago he was really good, and I would have gone yes. But I've watched Rafael Leao mm, recently, and the last thing I heard about Rafael Leao was he'd been booed off the pitch, and it wasn't going well. I don't know what his goal scoring's dropped off. I think performances have dropped off. I think it feels a little bit like that Rafael Leao is kind of like they're trying to move him out of the club. So I would be distancing myself from Rafael Leao and saying at this point in time, I mean the salary demand would be huge. I don't know if he's got the right mentality and attitude to be part of Manchester United's rebuild. So I think it would be I genuinely think like Rafael Leao should be someone we don't look at. But again, that's just my opinion, and I think Rafael Leao it was a very good player, but so Angela Stiller should be the first signing we have the first week of the transfer window. Big up to you, Kenny, as well. Kenny. You're in Australia, aren't you? I think you're in Australia. But big up to you, my man. I like it when people tune in from like a long way. Off. It's kind of quite nice to see how big the Man United community goes. I know I can't remember who it is now, but there's like somebody that tunes in from the Caribbean, and I think he joined a calling show. It was about 3 in the morning where he was, but he was still actually up, still getting involved. But big up to you, Kenny. So you think City will get Anderson? I think it's going to be happening, isn't it? It's going to be happening. So I just do like a bumper stream now? Because I don't know if I can do a stream tonight. I'm just thinking that based on what's happening, I wasn't really planning on being quite this long today, to be honest. So yeah, we just better dropping the useful facts as well. I kind of like knew a little bit of it, but I didn't know the exact facts. But it's definitely that with the academy, there's different levels of contracts, isn't there? And a lot of it depends on what contracts you can sign at a certain age. and saying JJ Gabriel is currently under a scholarship agreement with Manchester United, having signed an extension in 2025, keeps him at the club till 2027. So I think we did read that, like maybe we knew about that, but I forgot that it's quite a short contract. So it's just a 2 year extension. He can play first team football next season, but is that towards the end of the season? I can't remember exactly. Is it from the start of next season or the end? I can't remember exactly. But I say Rafa Leao's got the ego issue. I think he would be like I think a world like Rafa Leao in top form, like the form he had a couple of seasons ago. But it feels a bit like if you change the name Rafa Leao for Marcus Rashford, it seems to be the same career trajectory, doesn't it? And it's like can Rafa Leao regain the form he had a couple of years ago? I think it would be. I think it would just be. What's the best way of putting it? I think if we bought Rafa Leao, I think we'd be disappointed overall. Like I think over the course of the season, we'd look at it and say, no, I could be wrong, but I don't think Rafa Leao is the best fit for what we're trying to do. I think it might be one where we're potentially getting the wrong what's the word? Wrong personality, wrong mentality, probably. But I think it's just one of these players that there's like three or four factors, isn't there? So JJ Gabriel can play from August 26th. Yeah, we need to make sure he stays at Manchester United. 100%. 100%. What do you think about as a first signing niche fan? Just assuming that let's say about too many briefly. Is that too many United have serious interest in, but Real Madrid want to keep him. Too many needs. I think too many needs to decide. I have no idea what offer Real Madrid are putting out there, but if too many wants to stay at Real Madrid, is he just hanging on, pretending that he's interested in Manchester United? I think United need to like keep him on the radar a bit, but also be serious and think there is probably a high percentage. Like I'm still thinking too many stays at too many stays at Madrid and doesn't go anywhere. And I think United can't be sat here waiting, going, "Oh, can we get Anderson? Can we get too many?" And then the transfer window ticks by. We need to be more proactive than that. But we've seen that story before, haven't we? Where Man United trying to get that Sancho or Frankie De Jong, and you think, like, just sign some other players. Like, so yeah, I think personality is important. Like, I think personality and motivation. Like when you see the things that Cunha and Buemo are coming out with and saying that they're self-motivated, they're keen to be played in whatever position they want. And I mean, Helgi sent me something yesterday saying that Mathis Cunha had come out and said to Carrick, "I'll play any position you want. He just wants to be in the first team. Just wants to play football. You got the right people there at the club at the moment. It's about getting those other players as well. Like if Beliebers like got it'd be really interesting to see if anything came out from like a meeting with. Imagine if Manchester United meet with Belieber, meet with Alex Scott, Anderson, just find out what these players how they would fit in, and then find out that way. So I think there's definitely a lot of positives, isn't there, to say with these ones. If Madrid sell too many, they could regret it. I feel like Rodri's injuries are a concern. I mean, who's the best run club, I suppose? Is it Real Madrid? You look at the team they've got, Manchester City. I think if Manchester City are looking to move players on, they generally get it right, don't they? Have any players left Man City and actually, it's the same as Real Madrid. Real Madrid tend to actually, if players are good, they keep them. So I don't know. Could too many and Rodri actually swap clubs? Could that happen? Like, is too many actually, taking a long time thinking, let's see if there's an option to actually go to Man City, see if Man City come in for him. So maybe Man City could pay too many salary. They could offer him a competitive environment. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider. Still going. I took the dog for a walk. Yeah, it's getting warm. It's getting warm. I was outside for quite a bit earlier, and it was like nice and warm actually, really nice. Things are actually suddenly heating up, aren't they? Outside and actually in real life, not just in like Man United. Yeah, good to see Lucky back in the chat. Good to see Lucky. So flexible as football players. So regardless of good or bad, we're going to look bit better. I think we're going to be improving a lot, aren't we? So imagine Rodri playing El Clasico and Madrid derby. You don't see him coming out unscathed. I don't know. It's not as the league in La Liga. It's not as physical. Look at Anthony doing really well in that league when he went there on loan. Then coming back to the Premier League wasn't going to happen. Yeah, I would say that with Rodri, I think if you're signing Rodri, I think Rodri would be the signing that Real Madrid are looking for to try and win the Champions League, aren't they? So they're thinking that for Rodri, it's about big games, isn't it? So is this true? Romano's saying Pep is leaving Man City. If Pep's leaving Man City, do you think Maresca goes to Man City? Because I saw that they want Enzo Fernandez, and Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea. Maybe Maresca goes to City, but I don't know. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? So, do you think we should like close the vote and see what people are thinking regarding the vote? Because at the moment, uh, more people are coming in. Believe it's still on 60%. It has been like somewhat close. So, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And thanks for people that have been getting involved today. I'm not sure how many people have subscribed today, but if you subscribed today and you're new, thank you for finding the channel. And for people that I haven't recognised in the comments before, good to see people. And you say in recent days, United have been gathering information on Rafael Leao and Berber. I've been doing the same, and I'm not so keen. I'm not so keen on Rafael Leao. I think if you all things considered, I don't. I think it might be one worth staying, not going for. What too many seem. I think too many seem to want to leave, didn't they? Too many. So big scandal in Italian football. I mean, there's a lot of dodgy stuff going in Italian football, isn't there? So you like Lucky's pessimism, then you've got to be skeptical. Like you've got to be skeptical, haven't you? You've got to be skeptical of some of these stories. Fabrizio said Maresca is the favourite. I was saying yesterday. When I was doing a stream last night, we started off talking a bit about the situation at Man City, and I think we said that Maresca is like a likely candidate. Maresca was linked before he actually got sacked by Chelsea, and I was thinking Maresca to City. Maybe Chelsea should get someone like Areola or something like that. It's really difficult, really difficult. So you think it's between Maresca and Company. So Vincent Company, is he a good manager? Like, is he going to be? Is he good? Because I think it's really difficult when you see someone that's in charge of Burnley. Like Burnley don't have the budget. I know Burnley aren't great, but Burnley were dreadful. And then you go from being Burnley manager to being Bayern Munich manager. That's his career trajectory, isn't it? And then okay, with the resources that Bayern Munich have got, I think everybody's going to win the league, aren't they? Like if you're a Bayern Munich, you're going to win the league. So I don't know why like if you're going to go for Maresca and company, I don't know. But the thing is, Maresca and company are nowhere near as good as Pep Guardiola. So would you look at this one and say yeah, I exactly. So without being too negative about that, I like the way you've used a random person instead of like someone that we know for at Tesco. But yeah, I'm sure Liz has got like I'm sure great, but yeah, this is the point, isn't it? That there's going to be a drop off in managers at the top of the Premier League. Pep Guardiola has been the best manager probably for the last 6, 7 years, or how long he's been here, and Arteta's getting nowhere near. Liverpool are going to probably sack Slot. Like maybe Liverpool are going to be looking for someone like Areola. Who are they going to look for? They're going to be looking for a new head coach, I believe. And Manchester United, like this is why that if you could position yourself and get a world class like head coach, then United would be in a great position. But it's going to be tricky, isn't it? It's going to be difficult. But I was like, saying that I thought that with the Pep stuff, I think he's got to win the league to leave. Like I think the Pep stuff's a bit premature. But if Pep Guardiola doesn't win the league and Arsenal win it, do you think Pep Guardiola is going to leave Man City? Like, I think he stays. and wins the title next season. But I think he'd be pissed off. I think he would stay because he wants to leave as a winner. Um, a nice one, bit of a DJ. But I mean, your name does say that. But yeah, now big up to you, DJ. Say it's easy to succeed yeah, they're gonna have to cheat their way to like one, isn't it? Say, is it a positive that Baleba is a fan of our club, just like Cunha and Buemo wants to come to us? I think it's definitely why I'm talking about it today. The fact that Manchester United have a verbal agreement with Carlos Baleba, which does last until the summer of 2025. So this is like Fabrizio just saying exactly what we thought a while ago. The fact that there's an agreement in place for Baleba to like join Manchester United between Manchester United and Baleba. Terms were agreed about last August. That all that was in place, all that was there, and that's why it is a positive because it means that we don't have to worry about any sort of competition. It's not a problem, is it? As well. So yeah, get some Matters. I recognise that account name from somewhere, but thanks for getting involved in the chat. But Get Some Matters says City win the league, Pep leaves, City get charged. It's kind of like, do you remember when Pep Guardiola left Barcelona? Didn't Barcelona sort of tax issues come out then? Like there was definitely something regarding like Messi and like some of the there was definitely something happened at City. Sorry, at Barcelona. There was definitely some sort of thing. Yeah, we need to find Ender Madness and John Wayne as like channel legends. But yeah, if City win the league, I think it's 50-50 at the moment, isn't it? That they are level on points, but they've got some tricky games. Arsenal have got some easier games, I think. I think Pep leaves if City win. And that's my prediction. Just for like get some Matters. I'm assuming you're a Man United fan, if not a Man City fan. What happens if what happens if City don't win the league? Like, if City don't win the league, does Pep leave as a loser? But I don't know. That Alex Ferguson wouldn't do it. It's tricky, isn't it? Saying well, points deduction. So it's too late in the season for City to get the points deducted. Now it would be from next season. I think they need to Lance Armstrong City, don't they? Etc. I would say Spurs could lose to Wolves. They could actually. I was thinking that if you're doing fantasy football, I haven't got a single Spurs player in my fantasy team because I don't care who they're playing. They haven't had a clean sheet for about 3 months, have they? They haven't won a game in 2026. So I hope Wolves beat them. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? No, that's my thing. If City don't win the league, I think Pep has to like do another season, doesn't he? It's a bit. I think Pep will be thinking, bloody hell! I bought Semenyo and Gahey to win the league, and Arsenal were bottling it, and it feels unlikely. But I think he'd have to. I think he'd have to stay for another season to get it done. No, crazy, isn't it? Crazy. If this ends up being a 3 hour stream, I think that might be the only stream for today because I might be too knackered tonight. Um, United fan more than football fan. No, big up to you then. Yeah, I'm a Manchester United fan. I do try and watch a bit more football when I can, but it tends to be mainly Premier League. So this transfer window for me is quite easy in terms of I do watch other Premier League teams. I do have to go by a lot of like guests, kind of opinions, and also maybe research, and people send me information on other players and articles I read. But I think the Bundesliga, I have to go by people's opinions. That there's a lot of things. Got to say, Spurs will lose to Wolves. So where is this? Put this comment. Spurs will lose to Wolves. Nailed on. Yeah, is there a game tonight? Is that the game tonight? Because I can't remember. I can't remember. Yeah, at the moment, then most viewers are subscribed, but again, I do. There's no intention to actually have things behind that sort of that are unable to watch. But get involved. Yeah, is it going to be? Is it Spurs versus Spurs playing tonight? I can't. I don't know if I'll watch Spurs if it is Spurs, but that's maybe a factor actually because there's going to be a game tonight. I think I probably won't be streaming Sunderland versus Forest. Oh, actually, yeah, that's I mean, I think with this one, I know what Anderson's good at. I know what it's capable of. And maybe with this one, I think Sunderland are going to be a tough team at home, and that they got European football to play for. That'll be quite tricky. That'll be quite. So you're surprised after Barcelona, Pep still in England. Yeah, does it seem to be like some like scandal does seem to follow Pep Guardiola around, doesn't it? Like so, it's yeah, a bit surprising. If Sunderland win, they go above Chelsea. And damn, Chelsea are dropping like Man United did last season, aren't they? I think Sunderland. I think Sunderland got a good chance. I don't think Forest will win that game, but if it's a draw, it's probably going to be a bit closer to Forest to getting you know that secured football. Yeah, no, Xhaka was a good signing. I think Granit Xhaka is like one of those things that you think that if United would do an experienced signing, that would not be the worst one. Kenny Fanti Beast has come on Sunderland, praying for Forest downfall today. I'm hoping the same thing, Kenny. I'm hoping that actually, I'm hoping that in terms of this one, you're saying come on Sunderland. I'm kind of neutral in this game. I'm hoping that if Forest win, then I think Anderson's not going to Man United anyway, so I don't think it really. I don't think it's going to matter too much to me. Who do I want to win on Sunday, Leeds or Chelsea? Uh, I never want to see Leeds win, but it's kind of irrelevant now, isn't it? They're going to stay in the Premier League. Um, I think I'd rather see Leeds from a neutral perspective. If I'm being neutral, I'd say I'd rather see Chelsea keep losing, and I'd rather see Chelsea not get Champions League football at all. And it kind of like if Brighton drop off, then Chelsea is still in the mix, aren't they? A little bit. So I want to see Chelsea keep losing. Big up to you, Sadek. I know you're a big fan of Baleba, and so I can see him being a top player in our club. I mean, other people have said the same opinion as well. I guess if you're a fan of Belieber, you're not going to have a price cap, are you? So you want Leeds to win. Yeah, I mean, if Man United playing Leeds is obviously different. I think being this one, if it's Liverpool, I'd want Liverpool to lose. But with Leeds, I think seeing Chelsea fall apart is quite satisfying because they're one team like Chelsea are one team that can if they start losing a lot of their players, I think Chelsea could kind of fall apart quite quickly. I don't think they've got the big sort of fan base that other teams have got that can support Chelsea dropping down the league. So and also their model, Chelsea have got loads and loads of players on long contracts. Those players want to leave. It's going to be like a disaster, isn't it? Like a disaster. But for next like final bit of the stream. This is going to be like an epic stream. It's going to be like as long as like Lawrence of Arabia probably. So, so if you've got some midfield player questions, I've kind of exhausted most of my views on a lot of these, but for people that are just tuning in, I will try and like refresh things if people have got some questions. Summer destination. I would probably say based on the UK, I kind of like to go somewhere warmer because I like going in the sea, and I like going in the sea when the sea's warm. If that makes sense. So I'm going to hopefully go somewhere quite nice and warm, and that I'm not. It's not that I'm not obsessed by the sun, but I do like a sea you can swim in, and it's not absolutely freezing like the UK. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. Yeah, no one likes Leeds. No one likes Leeds. 72 is a record for the channel at the moment. So big up to people getting involved. Maybe we could get like 75 or 80 possibly by the end of the stream. That would be channel record as well. Like, let's see what we can beat the record, can't we? I had an aim of getting like 30 to 40, but if we got like 80, that'd be really good. And say you like him as well, but hopefully he's not the only midfield signing. And say, yeah, nothing would surprise me really. If you had an off Berber, big up to you. Yeah, I think nothing would surprise me in the same way that if Manchester United actually, if Manchester United actually signed Baleba, say I don't know the first week of the season, or Angela Stiller, or like Alex Scott, I wouldn't be surprised. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United did nothing. So I think in terms of the news, it seems like it seems unlikely United aren't going to do something, and that if Alex Scott was the first signing, I'd be a bit surprised because I don't think anybody saw Alex Scott's like being the first signing. I think everybody I thought it was going to be Baleba. So have I been to Toronto? I've never been that far. I've been to the USA a couple of times, but I haven't been that far up. I had a friend that used to live in Calgary for a year. He was a big fan of Canada, but I've never been myself. Oh, I thought you said something. I thought you had a comment that said goodbye. I don't know. Where was it? Let me put it. Maybe sometimes for some reason I think if you write something else, I think sometimes like YouTube's actually changing the comments or trying to translate it. So you put something in, YouTube changes things. Like I've noticed this, like YouTube actually changes. So you typed in coyote, you typed in a name, and I think YouTube changed it to goodbye, something. So YouTube does like if you notice your comments changing, it's crazy. Yeah, I went to Ibiza, but I went when did I go? I went when I was a lot younger, and it was a different sort of holiday to that sort of holiday I'll be having now. If that makes that makes a lot of sense. If you know, you know. Um, And so since John Terry's gone from, yeah, I think Chelsea have lost the leaders in their team, haven't they? So yeah, yeah, that you have to be careful with that one, don't you? You have to be careful. This is kind of like on the radar a little bit actually as well. So I saw that. So was it a fun week in terms of like it definitely wasn't fun, was it? No. Oh, nice. That sounds like pretty positive actually. And so just looking through the comments again, feel free to get any comments with like the stories. And if you just tuned in, it's that interesting to see that there is going to be a lot of positivity in the comments generally for like Belieber. That I'm still looking at the poll. It's still 62% picking Belieber over Alex Scott. I would kind of say that if you're going to be proactive and say like if you think Alex Scott should be the first signing, because this is one where I haven't watched Alex Scott as much as some of the other players. If you look at these two players and say Alex Scott needs to be signed, what would be your reason? That's the only thing I'm thinking of. I'll say no. I've generally done like Europe and then USA at the moment. Yeah, no, I've been to one of them. Yeah, I will be going somewhere in that rough area, put it that way, at some point. Um, yeah, what do people think then? I've never watched football, okay, as an example. And say you wanted to say sell Alex Scott to me. What was it about Alex Scott that if you voted for Alex Scott, like what would be your case for buying Alex Scott over Belieber if that was your option? If you think Alex Scott is a better player or a better signing for Man United, try and convince me. Like just make your argument about why you think he's a better option. I'm just interested to see what people are saying. I've seen lots of things. I've seen lots of people in the comments say they're not so keen on Belieber for certain reasons, but be positive about Alex Scott. Why would he be good? You're saying Alex Scott you put as your second signing. You've watched him play a lot. Okay, that's yeah. I think I agree with Chris that when we're having this discussion, and I find it quite interesting that some people will join the comments and say, we definitely need to get Belieber. He's going to transform on midfield, or people have a view that this player's going to be better, or I really rate Stiller. I want to get him in, or I think Adam Wharton. Like people say Adam Wharton, they like him as a good option, or too many is going to be the guy. Everybody's got like their favorite option, but I come back to this and think I think they're going to be actually all good signings. And so Alex Scott has not failed at the job for the past 8 or 9 months. Yeah, I was going to say this one that I was going to say you've got to be positive, Gregory, like positive about Alex. That felt like a negative about Belieber, but no. That's quite funny. Alex Scott might not come cheap. Now, he might not, but people do think that it might be 45, 50, 55. So he might not be less than 60, I know, but he can't be the same price as Semenyo, can he? He can't be that close. Um, there is no Bruno replacement, okay? Just to clarify, no one replaces Bruno. There is no Bruno replacement. That you can't replace Bruno Fernandes. He's going to be. I hope Bruno Fernandes gets the record assist against Liverpool. I hope we beat Liverpool 2-0 and Bruno Fernandes gets an assist, maybe gets a goal as well as man of the match. And Man United beat Liverpool and Bruno Fernandes gets the most assists in the Premier League. I'm hoping that would be the story. But no, Ryan's like saying generally, yeah, you're saying you don't know much about Alex Scott. Is his form based on just one season? Because it may drop like Baleba and might be worth half of it next season. I would say based on what I've been hearing, I think it is based on this season because I don't recall anybody mentioning Alex Scott a year ago. If you did like Alex Scott a year ago, then that's all good. I think that somebody said that we said better in the comments earlier on today was saying that actually there was he missed a decent number of games the year before, so it is like a fitness issue possibly. Like Lucky Singh is like right. So I think Alex Scott had some injury issues maybe 1 to 2 years ago, and then gradually what's happened, he's playing more games, got back up to full fitness, and that's why people are actually starting to rate him a bit more. So this is why yeah, I'd say Alex Scott is very athletic. So Alex Scott is one that has been maybe not talked about as much, but it is generally because he had some injury issues, but hopefully he's got over those. I mean, he's still a young player, but it's something that's a factor as well. I'll say Laurie Whitwell was really polishing Amran's United career, saying he's why Bruno stayed. I don't know. I don't know. Bruno stayed because he loved Man United. I don't think Bruno stayed because Ruben Amram wanted to play him as a defensive midfielder. I'm not sure that's right. If Bruno Fernandes has been completely honest, I think Bruno Fernandes was probably getting a bit pissed off by actually um, being played deep. Um, Keenan Yildiz has said El Maula can replace Bruno Fernandes. Interesting. Yildiz is kind of the one player I pick out as going, maybe he could actually do that. Maybe he could be doing that one. But yeah, I think Sadek's hit the nail on the head. Like if Bruno Fernandes leaves, like Casemiro, you can't really replace Bruno Fernandes, can you? You just get a different player. You don't really replace him. I've said don't say from negative, but no, you can say what you like. Then the moderators are not going to be concerned about what you say regarding this one. That you do not get blocked for a football opinion on this channel. That is 100% accurate. Even if you think even if you think Dallo is a really good player, even if you think that Agate should be what do you call it? Even if you think Agate should be given another year, you won't get blocked. It's fine. Yeah, no, I've noticed this as well. That I've noticed that there's a lot of buzz around Alex Scott recently. I think it's that Alex Scott had the ability, and I think what's happened is that from putting two and two together, I think Alex Scott obviously had some injury issues a couple of years ago, last year a bit as well, and this season is maybe the first season he's actually got a significant like run of games. It also probably coincides with Bournemouth playing very well, and I think the two things combined, very good. They got a very good head coach as well. Ariola's done a really good job. So I think all those sort of things are in is it's probably the same as like other players that when you see a player that doesn't play at all, it's a bit. It might be a little bit like the buzz that was around Almajalo. Almajalo was loaned out, didn't get in the first team, and then when he came into the first team, he actually did pretty well. So it could be like that, but I think it's been going on for a bit longer with Alex Scott. I think he's been consistently decent for the whole season. Is Alex Scott better than Fernandez? Oh, it's really difficult, isn't it? Like Alex Scott's in a better team at the moment. I think people really rate Fernandez very, very highly. So it's tricky, isn't it? Fernandez is quite young. I would say that I would say Fernandez. Okay, I'm going to just say what I think people are thinking that I've seen comments for the last few weeks. I think people rate Fernandez more than Alex Scott in the general kind of football world, but I don't know what Manchester United think in terms of that, whether they agree or not. The fact Paris Saint-Germain have got Fernandez on the radar suggests that there's bigger clubs actually interested in Fernandez than Alex Scott. And I think if the big clubs like Paris Saint-Germain are interested, I think you have to say that people are rating him a bit higher. But again, it's an opinion. It's tricky. So this is a no. This is like a that for what as I was saying earlier, saying this is a 24-hour stream. No, it feels like it, but it will be that if we keep going, eventually one of these players will sign for Manchester United before the stream ends. But no, we're just gonna. I'm gonna do like a because it takes time to organize, plan, etc. I thought I'd just do a like a two streams in one, effectively bumper stream, bumper stream because it's the to be honest, this is going to be the best sort of stream we do over the next month. But this is going to be the where the decisions are made, isn't it? This is going to be pretty much Manchester United's transfer window in a nutshell. It's going to be sorting out the midfield, and we'll probably do different streams um, over the next few weeks. But it's going to be eventually we're going to be talking about the same names, aren't we? But gradually we're going to see something actually happen, and that's going to be hopefully pretty good. Um, let's see. No, looking at the comments, no. I was thinking of doing something tonight, but to be honest, I'm pretty tired after this week, so I'm probably gonna. This is gonna be the last stream of the day, but we will be doing something tomorrow morning as well. So I maybe have It's really nice weather actually, so I'm just thinking like garden and have a couple of drinks. So let's have a look at this one. Yeah, I'm like Columbo with like unfortunately, it's only been 2 hours. Look. It's like Bruno Fernandez, like I'm pretty relentless, and like see you at 9. No, it won't. It won't be. Unfortunately, it'll be. It won't be this time. So no, I'm just kind of looking. So Sonic says Fernandez over Alex Scott in your opinion. Interesting, interesting. And one question I've got actually, I've got slightly different overlays in this one. I've got Old Trafford pitch behind me, but I used to have like a slightly different one which I could maybe use, but I think it used to have like people when they subscribed and they knew it pinged up. So if people like that feature, I might try and bring that one back at some point. Um, yeah. Should you have a look at the poll? Does anybody else want to vote on the pinned poll? The moment I think it's still a win for Believer, 63%. I don't think it's going to change, is it? Gregory said, "I'm glad you stayed on for the live." Yeah, no, you're welcome. It will obviously it won't be sustainable long term because I will be like just too tired. But no, this is awesome. Like 112 votes, 75 likes so far. Make sure you click the like as well. Let's go for a record. So let's find so first time signing the best one. It looks like Beliebers like winning 2-1 roughly on that. So it looks like most people look at Belieber and go, Belieber's a better option than Alex Scott. Is it worth doing? Do you want to do a poll with like three players? Like, quick, this is one where let's have a look at this one. So, hmm, drink beer, yeah, maybe beer or wine would be nice. It feels like beer garden weather at the moment. So I'm gonna put one. I'm gonna do. Does anyone want to do a poll with like with Fernandez in the poll? Is it worth putting Fernandez in and redoing it like for 10 minutes? Because I used to do quite a lot of polls last year. I thought it was quite interesting because one thing that I've noticed is if I ask a question and I get about 20 answers or something, and you kind of like trying to remember what's the most popular opinion. When you put a poll in, sometimes you get like an answer you're not expecting. But I thought Alex Scott might be a bit higher. And this morning I thought that maybe like Michael Carrick might be a bit higher compared with Nagelsmann, but it seems like Nagelsmann's a favourite. And it seems that Baleba is, yeah. I'd say the poll's based on what Belieber can do. If it's the Belieber of now, he wouldn't get that one. It might be. It might be. I think. I think people that like Belieber are definitely have changed their mind. If you like Belieber last season, I think a lot of people that like the skill set he's got, I don't think they've changed their mind. I think people are actually what they're doing really is I think people prefer another player, and then maybe they're more dismissive. It's quite tricky. No, I don't tend to either. No, not that often. But no, it's just that when it's winter, I don't want to just sit inside drinking. So no, had a nice cold Ho Garden. Ho Garden's one where I don't know how much you can drink of that. That's the one that's like quite like wheat beer, isn't it? So you're talking about Big Ange. Um, yes, so somebody had a question yet. And, Cake had a question yesterday, and the question was going to be, is it time? Are you going to be panicking as a Manchester United fan? And But does anybody watching actually feel panicked about the window? That I know last season it got to that stage where the transfer window was like ticking away, and people were like, "Oh, it's time to panic." And yeah, but at the moment, I was just genuinely saying that I don't know. What's the worst? Okay, this is the reverse kind of question from what we've been talking about for ages. What's the worst three players Man United can buy for midfield that are linked? Like, if you're going to put together your option for what's the worst three players Man United could buy of the players we're linked to, I bet you'll look at that list and actually go, These are still good players." Like, you could have all the players we talked about that are credible links. Like, what is the worst you could buy? They're all good players, aren't they? I say we panic bought Lamans. I don't know. I don't think Lamans was a panic buy because I think United were were like looking at it for ages and ages and ages. The scouts were like pushing it, and eventually they decided to get him. And he's saying that United can't afford to swing and miss with these transfers. Believer provides much risk. I suppose individually you could say transfers are risky, but if you get three people in, then yeah, I think Lamans was. I think Lamans was. I think Lamans was slow, but I think it was quite well scouted. But I think the data was there, and I think the scouts were pretty keen on this one. So yeah, Lamans was like long-standing signing, wasn't it? I think the panic buy was that maybe United. I think United were just indecisive. They're a bit like me picking a holiday. There's like so much options there. It's literally difficult to choose, isn't it? But and I think if United go for Baleba, there's no way Baleba's a panic buy. And they've been thinking about him for over a year now, aren't they? So that's not a panic buy either. Yeah, you know, no worries. I think in the comments it's difficult to phrase things. I think people got angry in the comments that you said that. You know, he should have been like he should have been done earlier because he was so cheap. But I think United just genuinely didn't know which one to go for. That's what I'm thinking. Big up to you, Mo, my man in Texas, USA. What are you saying today? Lamans wasn't a panic buy. You could have put a crash test dummy in goal and it would be an upgrade to Anana. I remember talking, like somebody said that somebody was saying that Agati was as useful as Cones. And I was saying if you try and get a cheap deal out of like if you try and get a cheap deal out of Brighton, they're probably going to charge you £50 million for a cone, aren't they? Good idea for a cheeky stream. The worst 11 of all-time Man United signings, goalkeeper to centre forward. Wow. Well, we're doing like four, 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1. I don't know. Um, those are worst linked, but I think if you're looking at actual worst signings, uh, who's the worst goalkeeper we signed? You'd have to maybe since Fergie. Who's the worst goalkeeper we signed? Because I think we thought it was Anana, and I think Brian Deere stepped up, and I think he probably is that one. Big up to you, DJ. 5 more minutes, do you reckon? 5 more minutes on the stream, and then we'll call it a day. I think. Yeah. So For Mo that's just joined, Mo, why don't you let us know what your midfield three choice is as to who you want? I say Carlos Baleba, if he wants to come and really work on his game, 100%, 100%. Big up to you, Berber. Yeah, definitely off that time. Yeah, no, I'll be live for like another say 5 minutes. Let's make it 3 hours, and then we'll call it a day. And I will go and get a drink and go and relax. So first signing, okay. If he's prepared to come to the first signing, then yeah, yeah, close to 660 guys. Yeah. Will we end on 666 at the end of the stream? So you got a few minutes to subscribe if you're new, and we'll be definitely live tomorrow, probably tomorrow 9 a.m. I think tonight's going to be a bit of a relaxing one. Maybe enjoy some football if you want to watch. If you want to scout Anderson and see the player we're probably not going to sign, you can look at that if you want to. Uh, I couldn't talk for that long about people posting some good questions and comments. So you guys are like definitely been helping a lot. It's because I was like it's because I think it's difficult, isn't it? When you look at Belieber and Scott and you talk about the other midfield signings, it's kind of a never-ending conversation, isn't it? And you want to see Kobe Mainu, Tchouaméni, and Bruno Fernandes. Who do you want like Mo? If you want to go for new signings and you can put three in there, which two would you sign alongside Tchouaméni? Because I think Tchouaméni is a good shout for a first option. Then I mean, too many's like a unit, isn't he? But you got too many Koemanu, Bruno Fernandez. Who do you want if you're going to get for three there? Because either way, there's a lot of options there, isn't there? So Manuel Ugarte suits Newcastle. We need to keep telling Newcastle that, don't we? We need to. Okay, Newcastle's a different team, but I don't know if that's the case. I hope it is. That would be good. Just seem like no, just I'm just interested to know Mo because we're not spoken for a while. But if you got too many as you're signing, which other two players do you sign? Just let us know. It'd be interesting to know. Also, big thanks to people watching. Still, 61 people in the chat. This has been probably the most epic stream since we started a week ago. So Debassis agrees with Mo's lineup, and you might slide mainly for Stiller. I was just thinking if you're going to sign three players, which would be your three signings? But in terms of like putting someone in the first team, I think too many feels like the most obvious one person transfer for Casemiro, doesn't it? It feels like if Real Madrid replaced Casemiro with too many, are we going to do the same thing? Then so you go for so you like Tonali, Angela Stiller plus too many. That's going to cost a lot of money, Mo. That's going to be expensive. Then that's a lot, isn't it? Yeah, no, exactly, Chris. One thing that's been good, Chris, is it's maybe happened that doing like a morning, lunchtime, or night. I think what's been happening is every couple of days, actually every day, about two or three, four people have actually found it again, and it's the same people that, and they said the key has been, I think, is keeping the graphics the same, keeping the content the same, and people are finding it because they recognise that. I'm not going to say it's not like I'm not going to say it's a like a brand, but I'm going to say keeping the things the same. Someone said, "Oh, I saw the font and the thumbnail, and I realised it might be." So yeah, it's good though, isn't it? We've got. It feels a bit like the rebuild's happening quite quickly. So yeah, Tonali's expensive, isn't it? But yeah, I will say this. I quite like Mo's way of thinking because some people it feels like they're looking at Manchester United from an accountancy perspective and they're trying to budget the books. Whereas I do like the way Mo's just gone, it's not my money. I want these guys in. And like, yeah, exactly. That's it. Just pick it. I don't want people to go, well, I don't really want this player, but he's quite cheap. Then Yeah, if you want to rebuild, you want to rebuild. You don't want to like just buy players that are a bit average. Are they going to sell him? Only if he says he wants to leave. Like only if he doesn't sign a new contract, I think. So yeah, yeah. Too many replace Casemiro at Real Madrid. Can he do it at Manchester United? That's probably I think what I think Man United want to do, and that's why I think too many is like serious option. Like he's a really serious option here. But I am literally going to end the stream in about a minute. So if you got like a final question you want to put forward, I have said that there's a link to the Discord, Facebook group, TikTok, etc. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really put too much on Twitter apart from advertise when we're going to go live. Everything will be on there if you want to find it, and then you can get involved. This has been like a very, very lengthy discussion, but I think proactive one. I think there's a lot to think about, and I think I've tried to respect everybody's views. Even the person that said that Dali was amazing, and that Dali was actually like Maldini and Beckham, and I think Maldini's an excellent player, and I really like Beckham, but I think that's pretty high level trolling if that's the case. I don't think our club will pay that much for him either. Not seen much about him to be honest, Mo. Not seen him mentioned a lot. So Jim said my will finish before United's. It probably will. It probably will. I'm hoping it'll get done like over the summer easily back. Hopefully somewhat. And again, it's not about the number of subscribers because it's about the people that actually watch day to day. And I think that's actually getting actually close to being back. Whereas the number of subscribers, if you stream for like 5 years, you're going to pick up people. But I think it's about the people that are here week in, week out, and that's probably pretty close. Pretty close. The only two accounts I know that are regular people in the chat that I've not found is End the Madness, who I'd love to speak to because he predicted top four for Manchester United back in August, and John Wayne, old school member from the community about for the last 5 to 6 years. If you see End the Madness or John Wayne in the chat in a Man United stream, then maybe covertly kind of just mention that we're back. Hopefully, you will find us at some point. But yeah, getting Believer done, 55 million. Then sell Agati for 34 to Galatasaray. I don't think you want to buy Bruno Guimaraes. Okay, I saw that and I thought Bruno Guimaraes. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to leave. I think Bruno Guimaraes might be where Newcastle draw the line. And I think on that bombshell, I think I'm going to have to draw the line with the stream. Guys, absolutely fantastic effort. Unbelievable. If you haven't clicked like, it's a channel record, whatever the situation. And we will be live tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. If you're in the Discord or in the Facebook group, post any story you want to talk about there. And big up to like Jim and the other moderators and Rob and Berber. Also, Cody, Jules, and Berber, who I've like bounced ideas off to try and think of some streams. So thanks guys for getting involved. And we'll be live in a little bit one. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. If you're in the UK, it's beautiful weather. If you're somewhere else, you've probably got a bit more of the day as well. But also share the stream if you want to. Post it to people you know that broaden the community. And have a great day. And we will see you guys um, in a long time now. It's going to be tomorrow morning. We'll see you guys with some hopefully breaking news that's happened tonight. Until then, enjoy, and we will catch you guys in the next one.